Chapter 341. Seeing his behavior, King An's anger surged and turned into killing intent. He wanted to order his men to hack him to death. His rationality suppressed him. He pursed his lips and did not call for help. This Chu Li was obviously arrogant and domineering, but he did not mess up his etiquette, which made him look even more arrogant. King An felt that he could not stand it any longer. He had to deal with him quickly to prevent himself from feeling uncomfortable. Chu Li kept a straight face and said solemnly, not saying a word. After a while, King An calmed his anger and killing intent. He said coldly, "I heard that the second lady is not willing to get married?" Chu Li said calmly, "Your Highness, it was the second lady who personally sent someone to look for your Highness. The one who is most willing to get married is the second lady. I wonder where your Highness heard this rumor?" King An said lightly, "Looks like it's a rumor. That's good. Although I have an engagement with the second lady, if the second lady is really unwilling, I will not force it. I will personally write to the Emperor to cancel this engagement." Chu Li said, "Thank you, your Highness. But if the second lady is really unwilling, isn't it too late for your Highness to say this now? Moreover, can your Highness really cancel the Emperor's engagement?" King An was suddenly furious. His eyes were cold. Chu Li looked down and did not look at him. Even if he groveled, he would not be able to change King An's mind and not kill him. If that was the case, he would not let go of the opportunity to embarrass him. It would be best to make him lose his mind. An irrational King An would be easier to deal with. He glanced at Su Ning, who was on the other side of King An. The little monk looked down and did not say a word. He did not even move, which made people involuntarily ignore him. But in Chu Li's eyes, Su Ning was very obvious. The Sarira beads in his hand emitted a golden light that enveloped him and King An. His omniscient mirror could not see through King An's heart. Chu Li thought to himself that he had to think of a way to make Su Ning leave. The monks from the Titanium Temple wanted him to listen to them. He could only start with cultivation. The horses galloped. The entire group did not speak. They all heard the conversation between Chu Li and King An and were frightened. Even if he was rank 1, he must be tired of living to dare to talk to his Highness like that. Prince An gradually suppressed his anger and slowly said, "I heard that you want to follow me to the imperial residence?" Chu Li said, "The lady can't live without her family to serve her. If she's from her maiden family, she'll have to bring her maidservants. What's the point of bringing a grown man like you along?" Prince An said lightly. Chu Li said seriously, "The inside of the imperial residence is unfathomable. Second lady is alone with only a maid to accompany her. I really can't feel at ease." Could it be that Princess Shui and Princess Song only brought maids into the mansion? The two side concubines could bring guards into the Fu, but second Miss, as the main concubine, could not bring guards? It seems that in His Highness' heart, the old people are more important. Miss has respected His Highness' virtuous name in vain. I admire your Highness, so as soon as I recovered my health, I didn't care that your Highness is over 40 years old and insisted on carrying out the engagement. If I knew your Highness' thoughts, I don't know how sad second Miss would be. As the Miss's bodyguard, I also feel disappointed." King An's face darkened and he shouted, "How dare you?" Chu Li's expression did not change. "I'm just speaking logically. How am I being presumptuous? You dare to sow discord between me and second Miss? Isn't that presumptuous?" King An said coldly. Chu Li said, "As the second Miss's scribe, I saw that your Highness is so biased. If I have been presumptuous, I can only hope that your Highness will forgive me. If there's a next time, I will not forgive you." King An stared at him coldly and murderously. In the imperial residence, the law is merciless. Don't blame me for not warning you. Thank you for your reminder, your Highness. Chu Li closed fist saluted and said seriously. Seeing him like this, King An became even angrier, but he knew that being angry would not help. Find an opportunity. Just kill him. If 2 grandmasters could not kill him, then 3. If 3 was not enough, then 4, 6, 8. If all the grandmasters in the imperial residence were to be mobilized, he did not believe that he could not kill this brat. Thinking of this, he gradually calmed down. There was no need for him to waste his energy on a dead man. He waved his hand and said lightly, "You may leave. I need some peace and quiet." "Yes, Your Highness. I will take my leave." Chu Li closed fist saluted and retreated. He went to the last position of the line. Zhao Qingshan and another grandmaster, Lu Donglu, came over. Zhao Qingshan whispered, "Chief, why did you have to contradict King An?" Lu Donglu said, "It was satisfying, but I'm afraid that there will be future troubles. This King An does not look like a broad-minded person." Chu Li smiled. "I know what I'm doing. Elder Zhao, Elder Lu, be careful. If there's an assassin, don't rush forward." Yes. The 2 of them smiled and answered. The following day, Chu Li stayed at the back of the line. He did not meet King An, and King An was too lazy to see him. They traveled at full speed. The 16 porters were all light body technique masters. Their speed was not any slower than a fast horse. The rest of them rode on horses and traveled at full speed. On the evening of the second day, they missed their lodging and rested in a post house in the forest. Chu Li, Zhao Qingshan, and Lu Donglu gathered together. These 2 days they followed the line obediently. Meng Ji, who was secretly watching him, was relieved. The moon was in the middle of the sky. King An was surrounded by everyone. He sat cross-legged around the campfire. The campfire was blazing, lighting up the surroundings. Everyone sat in 2s and 3s, meditating and adjusting their breath. They maintained a state of vigilance. The journey was too peaceful. It made everyone's hair stand on end. According to their guesses, there should be some twists and turns along the way. There would always be some ignorant people who would cause trouble. In the end, the journey was peaceful. No one jumped out. This made them more worried. The calmer it was, the more powerful the explosion would be. Especially since they might be able to reach Chongming Town tomorrow. Tonight was their best chance to act. "Who is it?" Chu Li shouted and opened his eyes. 10 men in black leaped out from the forest. They were like 10 wisps of smoke. They struck their palms in the air. The guards of honor at the outermost layer, although they had martial arts, they were not considered masters. They collided with the invisible palm energy and flew out. Chu Li suddenly flashed and appeared beside King and Zhao Qingshan, and Lu Donglu followed closely behind him and rushed over. Zheng Lide and Meng Ji were also beside King An. The other 2 grandmasters rushed out to meet the 10 men. Bang bang! The 2 grandmasters were directly hit and flew out. The 10 men who came were all grandmasters. King An's grandmasters could not even withstand a single blow from the 10 palm energy. King An said in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Your Highness, it must have been hard for you to come all the way here." One of the men in black sneered and waved his hand. The 10 men in black leaped up and rushed towards King, and Chu Li looked up and let out a long howl. As soon as the howl ended, more than 10 long howls echoed from not far away. The howls merged into one and resounded through the night sky. The 10 men in black's expression changed slightly. They stopped moving. These 10 long howls belonged to grandmasters. They were not inferior to him. Some were even stronger. Chu Li smiled at King An. "Don't worry, Your Highness. Since you are in our territory, the House of High Dukes will not let you get hurt. Your Highness, watch how we capture them." The 15 grandmasters were all dressed in blue robes with blue scarves covering their faces. They appeared behind the 10 men in black and surrounded them. Chu Li said in a deep voice, "Don't let any of them go. Kill them all." "Yes." The 15 grandmasters shouted in a deep voice. Chu Li turned his head and said, "Elder Zhao, Elder Lu, you 2 go too." "Yes." Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu closed fist saluted. They fluttered and joined the group of masked men in blue. King An's face was pale. He stared coldly at Chu Li. Chapter 342. All right. King gritted his teeth and spat out the word. 17 grandmasters against 10, almost 2 against 1, a chaotic battle ensued. Palm energy surged, fist energy surged, everyone felt like they were in a raging wave, the force was everywhere, a slight carelessness could lead to death. King An's entourage kept retreating, they were pushed out by the omnipresent force, their eyes were fixed on the battlefield. Chuli turned his head and said, "Your Highness, what do you think of my masters?" King An scoffed, "Didn't you say that the High Duke's public house only has 8 grandmasters?" Chuli shook his head and laughed. "How can the High Duke's public house be known by others? Only 8. Once those martial arts factions have the intention to rebel, they will be arrogant, thinking that they can defeat the High Duke's public house, they can't wait to act. Isn't this tempting them to rebel?" King An scoffed, "If they know that the High Duke's public house has 20 grandmasters, they won't act." Chuli shook his head. "Your Highness is wrong, if they have the intention to rebel, they will act one day, if they wait too late, the rebellion will become stronger, the destruction will be more intense, and when they accumulate enough power, they will really suppress the High Duke's public house, then the world will be in chaos." "The world will be in chaos?" King An scoffed, "That's sensational." Chuli said, "Your Highness is knowledgeable, you can't not see it, right? If one day they can really suppress the High Duke's public house, one High Duke's public house will be breached. The High Duke's public houses will also lose their strongest deterrent, those who have the intention to rebel will have hope, they will burst forth with stronger power, then, it will be the time for a change of dynasty. With father here, who can cause trouble?" King An said lightly, "Your Highness, your thoughts are not worth mentioning." Chuli shook his head. "Your Highness has forgotten, there is not only one enlightened master in the world, other than the Ji dynasty, there is also the Li dynasty, the Zheng dynasty, the Fu dynasty and the Qiu dynasty, how can they just watch His Majesty quell the rebellion?" King An's expression changed slightly. When his gaze fell on the Grandmaster in black, his expression softened slightly. Under the siege of the High Duke's public house, the man in black was tenaciously holding on, although he was at a disadvantage. He was able to hold on, and there was no danger to his life. It seemed like it would not be difficult for him to escape. Chuli also looked at the chaotic battle in the field. The martial arts of these black-clothed men were indeed formidable and their cultivation was profound. They were practically fighting 1 against 2, yet they were still able to hold on. Chuli shook his head and watched the battle in silence. King An turned his head to look at him and mocked with a faint smile. "It seems like your imperial residence doesn't have much of an advantage. I'm afraid that you won't be able to take down these assassins. Don't tell me that you can't even take down 1 against 2? Chuli smiled and looked at Zheng Lide and Meng Ji. "Why don't the 2 commanders lend them a hand?" Zheng Lide shook his head. Meng Ji scoffed. "Our duty is to protect the Royal Highness, we cannot leave him for even a moment." Chuli laughed. "Are you protecting His Royal Highness now to prevent me from assassinating him? If there's a first batch of assassins, it doesn't mean that there won't be a second batch. We have to guard against them," Meng Ji scoffed. "But Chief Chu, why don't you go and help?" Chuli glanced at Prince and smiled. "My duty is to protect His Royal Highness, lest anything happens to him and affect the wedding. If the wedding can't be held because of Prince An's injury, it would be my fault." Prince An said faintly, "It's all right, you can go and help." Chuli smiled. "Thank you for your kindness, Your Highness. If they really have the ability, they can escape. As long as they don't disturb the wedding, let them be." Prince An said, "How can I let it go? They wanted to assassinate me, how can I let them go so easily?" I wonder how Your Highness will deal with them." Chuli smiled and asked. Prince An scoffed and said coldly, "Kill them without mercy." "Understood." Chuli smiled and nodded. "I was waiting for Your Highness to say that. Lady Lu, it's time to show yourself." He raised his voice and shouted. His voice was like rolling thunder and resonated in the night sky. A lady in a white robe fluttered over under the moonlight. She was like a fairy that floated down from the moon. Her face was covered with a white veil, and only a pair of watery eyes could be seen. Truly good plan. She scoffed softly and landed on the field. As soon as she arrived, her graceful figure suddenly sped up. She was as ethereal as smoke and quickly circled the field. The men in black who were fighting fiercely were no longer in the mood to care about anything else. They tried their best to hold on, and all of them had the intention to retreat. If this situation continued, they would not be able to turn the tables. They could only retreat and stay alive. Otherwise, they might really meet with misfortune. Lu Yurong was like a wisp of smoke as she bypassed the men in black. Rays of finger energy shot out. TSS, TSS, TSS. It was like a hidden weapon was shot towards the men in black. They were already at a disadvantage. Now that the finger energy was shot, they could not dodge in time. They could only use their palms or fists to block. The finger energy immediately entered their bodies. The strange finger energy drilled into their bodies and circled around them. It disturbed the circulation of their inner energy. Their bodies and movements suddenly became slow and sluggish. Their power was greatly reduced. Chu Li smiled. Lady Lu, what finger technique is this? You don't need to know. Lu Yurong scoffed coldly. She stepped on the treetop and fluttered away. Her sudden appearance was like a fairy that had been banished to the mortal world. She had already left, but her lingering fragrance still lingered in the air, causing people to involuntarily sigh in admiration and melancholy. Chu Li saw these strange finger energies through the omniscient mirror. This was the unique inner energy of the elusive Nine Heavens goddess. Even Prince An, who cultivated the scripture of duality, was at a disadvantage when he encountered the elusive Nine Heavens goddess power. He could not get rid of it, let alone them. It was a battle between masters. These men in black were disturbed by Lu Yurong's finger energy. Their inner energy circulation was sluggish. It might be a small change, but when they were surrounded by two masters of the same level, it became a fatal key. One by one, the men in black were hit and fell under the joint attack of the men in blue. Some of the black-clothed men saw their companions fall to the ground and immediately wanted to escape, but it was already too late. Following the fall of 3 black-clothed men, even more blue-clothed men broke free and joined the encirclement. Those who wanted to escape attracted even more attack. Lu Yurong's sudden appearance became a fatal blow. The situation took a turn for the worse. In the blink of an eye, 10 men in black fell to the ground. They were heavily injured and surrounded by the men in blue. Chu Li laughed loudly. Thank you for your help, Lady Lu. Lu Yurong's voice was faint as if it came from the sky. It was faint but clear. No need to thank me. Just steal a few more jade carvings for me. Chu Li's expression did not change. He turned to look at Prince An. Your Highness, I did not fail you. Just do as your Highness said. Kill these people as a warning to others. Wait. Meng Ji quickly said, Chief Chu, it's not good to see blood on His Highness's wedding day. It's not auspicious. Chu Li squinted his eyes and smiled. As a martial artist, do you still need to pay attention to these things? Meng Ji said, these people's deaths are not to be regretted. But it's not worth it to ruin the happiness of the wedding. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully and looked at Prince An. What does your Highness think? Prince An frowned and stared at these men in black. Chapter 343. Prince An shook his head. What Deputy Commander Meng said makes sense. These people's deaths are not to be regretted, but if it affects the wedding, it will not be beautiful. I have the virtue of cherishing life, just let them go. Let them go this time, I don't think they will rebel again. He continued, Chu Li, your hostility is too strong, you can't just be stubborn, you only know how to kill. You should be benevolent, be more lenient, give people a chance to turn over a new leaf. Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Thank you for your advice, your Highness, I will remember it. Prince An's gloomy mood eased a little. He nodded lightly. Chu went in front of the men in black and slapped each of them, sealing their acupuncture points, leaving only their mute acupuncture points unsealed, but he did not remove their masks. He returned to Prince An's side. Prince An frowned at him. He did not understand. Chu looked at them, shook his head and sighed. Your Highness, I admire your benevolence, but it's not suitable for these people. If it wasn't for the secret guards of my public house, I'm afraid your Highness would have become their prisoner, or even lost your life in their hands. For such evil people, do you still want to talk about benevolence, your Highness? They might not go that far. Prince An shook his head. I believe they know their limits. If they really want to harm me, none of them will escape. Chu smiled. Your Highness, it seems that you still don't understand the people of the martial arts world. My public house has always dealt with them. I know the blood of the people of the martial arts world the best. These people often know that they will die, but they still want to do it, or else the public house would be free. But your Highness, look at the world today. The public house can't have a day of peace. Every day there are martial arts masters breaking the law with their martial arts. They do not care about their own lives, they do not care about other people's lives. Prince An looked at him coldly. Chu shook his head and sighed. These are sacrificial warriors, they are already prepared to die, they would rather give up their lives just to kill you, your Highness. So for these people, there is only one word, kill. Are you determined to kill? Prince An sneered. Do you not care about the wedding between me and the second lady? Chu said sternly, Your Highness, you have wronged me. I can only start a massacre. Otherwise, the road ahead will still be long, and every step will be difficult. There will be assassinations at every step. Prince An said disapprovingly, You're exaggerating. Chu said, Your Highness, you will know in the future. Let's kill him first, he said, lifting his arm. Your Highness, save us. One of the black-clothed men suddenly shouted. King An's expression changed. Chu let out a smile and shook his head. It's too late to ask His Highness to save us now. You came to assassinate me knowing that you're going to die. Why do you have to lose your integrity in front of everyone? There are so many companions to accompany you on the road to hell. You won't be lonely at all. If you die, so be it. We are all on the same side. We're on the same side. The man in black hurriedly shouted. Shut up! Chu shouted. He turned to look at King An. He shook his head and said with a smile, The people of the martial arts world are full of guts, but it is inevitable that there will be spineless people. What a pity! He pointed at the black-clothed man and scoffed, Bring him out. If he's not gutsy, he won't be a threat. It's fine to spare his life. A man in blue walked over and lifted the black-clothed man up and put him aside. Chu nodded in satisfaction and closed fist saluted at King An, Your Highness, please move away. Don't look at this bloody scene. King An frowned and stared at him coldly. Chu, do you have to kill them? Chu said, For the safety of your Highness, the second lady, and the imperial residents, these people must be killed. Please forgive me, your Highness. With that, he turned around and raised his hand. Wait, Zheng Lide said in a deep voice. Chu lowered his hand again and looked at Zheng Lide. Commander Zheng, what do you think? If you're trying to persuade me to spare them, please don't say it. Chief Chu, you've disobeyed His Highness' orders time and time again. You're not fulfilling your duty as a subject. I can't just sit by and watch. Zheng Lide said in a deep voice. Since His Highness said to let them go, you should have let them go. But you ignored it. Chief Chu, how dare you? His last sentence sounded like he was roaring. His voice was like a clap of thunder. He glared at Chu with murderous intent. Chu sighed and shook his head. If your Highness wants to talk about mercy, please forgive me for not being able to agree. This is the territory of the House of High Dukes, not your Highness' imperial residence. The second lady is not the princess yet. I'm first the chief of the House of High Dukes, then I'm your Highness' imperial residence. That's disgraceful. Zheng lied scoff. Everything under the heavens belongs to the king. Your first His Highness Imperial Residence's chief. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. It's not too late to say this when your highness becomes the emperor one day. He turned his head and raised his arm. Your highness, help! Another black-clothed man shouted. King An's face darkened. His eyes flashed with a cold light. Chu Li laughed. Don't tell me you're saying that you're one of us? One of us. One of us. The black-clothed man quickly said. Chu Li waved his hand. Move him to the side. A blue-clothed man moved him to the side and placed him together with the one who begged for mercy. One of us. One of us. The rest of the people quickly shouted. People do not worry about scarcity but about inequality. That was human nature. No one begged for mercy before. No one begged for mercy. They gritted their teeth and bet that King An would beg for mercy, preventing Chu Li from killing them. But seeing that King An's plea was useless, Chu Li was about to kill them. Someone was spared from death because he begged for mercy. The rest of the people instantly felt unbalanced. They felt that they could not die in vain. It was just one sentence. Moreover, no one blamed anyone else. As long as they lived, they would all beg for mercy. It did not matter if it was embarrassing or not. Seeing that these people were calling one of them, Chu Li looked at King An doubtfully. Your Highness? How did they become one of us? King An coldly said, How would I know? Chu Li said, If that's the case, they made up an excuse to live. That's really despicable. We can only kill them. Wait, Chief Chu. We're His Royal Highness's men. A black-clothed man quickly shouted. The rest of the black-clothed men shouted at the same time. Your Highness! Commander Zheng! Chu Li shouted, Shut up! He coldly stared at the black-clothed men and sneered. What a vicious scheme! You said you're His Royal Highness's men. Did King An order you to assassinate him? That's right. That's right. We were just fooling around. We just wanted to see how good our defense was. That's right. The black-clothed men said at the same time. Chu Li sneered. Nonsense. You're really vicious. You couldn't assassinate him, so you framed His Royal Highness. He did not wait for the black-clothed men to speak and continued. His Royal Highness allowed his own men to assassinate him. After he was injured, he couldn't continue with the marriage. The wedding couldn't be held as planned. With such an inauspicious event, the marriage between the two families would probably be over. This was King An's way of going against the emperor's marriage. He was dissatisfied with the marriage, so he used this method. How vicious are your schemes! The black-clothed men were stunned. Chapter 344. Chu Li turned his head and closed fist saluted. Your Highness, you can't be merciful to these people. They must not be forgiven. King An frowned. There's no need to listen to their nonsense. Chu Li shook his head. I'm just afraid that if we spare their lives, they will spread the news. When that happens, both your Highness's and the second lady's reputation will be tarnished. They really have evil intentions and cannot be forgiven. King An said, Grandmasters are the pillars of a country. It would be a pity to kill them all. Chu Li's face darkened and looked at King An. Your Highness has repeatedly stopped me from killing them. Could it be what? King An's gloomy face darkened even more. His eyes were cold and he was ready to kill him at any time. However, Chu Li turned a blind eye to it and said indifferently, Could it be that what they said is true? Don't talk nonsense. King An said. Chief Chu, you're too presumptuous. Zheng Li said coldly, Your words are disrespectful to His Highness. Chu Li closed fist saluted. I can't help but be suspicious of your Highness's actions. I've heard rumors before that your Highness is not satisfied with this marriage and does not want to marry the second lady. I don't think it's possible. The second lady is the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. Her beauty is unparalleled and she has a kind, gentle and dignified character. She's a woman that every man dreams of. How could your Highness not be satisfied? Looking at your Highness's actions now, I'm starting to doubt if the rumors are groundless. King An frowned. Chu Li, you're too presumptuous. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Please forgive me, your Highness. As the second lady's scribe, I have to say these words. Your Highness is a descendant of the Emperor and is indeed honorable. However, the second lady is not a lowly person either. She's more than qualified to be a match for His Highness, King Jing. Presumptuous. King An shouted and said coldly, Chu Li, do you think I can't kill you? Chu Li bowed again to apologize. He closed fist saluted and said, Please forgive me, your Highness. Since your Highness has no intention to break the marriage, please kill these evil people and face them squarely. I will decide whether to kill them or not. King An scoffed, on the day of the wedding, blood is not good. It's bad luck to see blood, let them leave. Chu Li chuckled. How dare you? King An gritted his teeth and said coldly, Chu Li, if this happens again, don't blame me for killing you. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Looks like what they said was true. Your Highness is blindly shielding her, so it's obvious that you have ulterior motives. Your Highness is a dignified prince with a virtuous reputation, yet you actually use such a despicable method. I really can't help but laugh. Everyone looked at the two people who were at each other's throats. They did not even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that they would attract attention and be blamed. They could all see that King An had already restrained himself to the limit. It could explode at any time. Once the prince was angry, blood would definitely be spilled. They did not want to be the unlucky ones. Prince An gritted his teeth and said, Shut up. Chu Li smiled and said, Since they are His Highness's people, then all the more reason not to let them live. These vulgar people don't know how to think for His Highness. They don't advise His Highness to walk the righteous path and blindly use underhanded trick. They should be beheaded. He turned his head and shouted, Kill them! Yes. A blue-robed man shouted. The blade flashed. In the blink of an eye, 10 people were beheaded by the blade. Blood flowed like a river. This blue-robed man was Yu Jintao. Chu Li. Prince An's eyes were instantly bloodshot. His body trembled. He roared loudly. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Prince An's sudden shout made them even more terrified. Their hearts were pounding so hard that it almost jumped out of their chests. 10 years of hard work went down the drain. 10 grandmasters died in one day. With these 10 slashes, with these 10 blades, half of the vitality of the imperial residence was cut off. This made Prince An's heart ache so much that he wanted to bleed. He almost fainted. Prince An spat out a mouthful of blood. Your Highness! Zheng Lide and Meng Ji quickly went forward to support him. Prince An wiped off the blood on his mouth. He spat out a mouthful of gloomy air. His chest felt clear and he could finally breathe. Chu Li looked at Prince An quietly. He was delighted. Killing these people was equivalent to chopping off one of Prince An's arms. The remaining grandmasters would lose their elites, and the pressure he would face after entering the imperial residence would lessen a lot. The imperial residence of King An probably had more than 20 grandmasters. He had killed 3 of them earlier, as well as Gu Yu and Ding Jian. In addition to these 10, he had killed a total of 15 grandmasters. The number of grandmasters that Prince An had left was estimated to be less than 10. Of course, he might have hidden more people, but based on Prince An's intense reaction, he should not have hidden too many of them. In this way, the High Duke's public house's strength would be similar to that of the High Duke's public house. The High Duke's public house would be able to handle it, and he would also be relieved of his worries. However, King An could not wait to kill him right now, so he had to be careful. Your Highness? Zheng Lide looked at Prince An carefully, then looked at Chu Li. His eyes emitted a cold glare as he stared at him. Meng Ji did the same too. Chu Li acted as if nothing had happened. He asked with concern, Is your Highness all right? King An was furious, but he suddenly calmed down. He looked at Chu Li calmly and nodded. I'm fine. Chief Chu, I'll remember what happened today, and I'll return the favor in full. Chu Li smiled. Your Highness, you're exaggerating. Prince An glanced at the corpses on the ground and shook his head. If they died, then they died. There was no point in talking about it. It was impossible to revive them. The High Duke's public house had the spirit blessing pill, but the imperial residence did not. The imperial house had it, and he had 2 or 3 of them, but he could not give them to them. Although it was difficult to find grandmasters, as long as he searched carefully, he would be able to find one by relying on his reputation. He could slowly replenish the number of grandmasters. His father was in the prime of his life. The fight for the throne was a long process. There was no need to rush. The smell of blood here is too strong. Let's continue our journey, Prince An said calmly. Yes, Zheng Lide quickly responded. Chu Li waved his hand. The group of blue-robed men fluttered away. They went into the forest like ghosts and disappeared without a trace. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu returned to Chu Li's side. They looked at Chu Li with a complicated expression. No matter how they thought about it, they would never have thought that Chu Li would be so ruthless. He really dared to kill 10 grandmasters at once. This would definitely be earth-shattering news. Tomorrow, the entire martial arts world would know about it. Grandmasters always had a high status. In addition to that, they were always alert to danger. They would almost never fall into a desperate situation. They would avoid danger in advance and rarely die. In the eyes of all the martial arts world people, as long as they reached the grandmaster level, they would not have to worry about not dying a good death. They could live with confidence. However, this time, Chu Li killed 10 grandmasters in one go. 10 grandmasters. The martial arts world of the Great Ji dynasty did not have more than 200 grandmasters. He killed 10 of them in one go. Chu Li continued to be the last. His expression was calm as if nothing had happened. However, the way the people of Prince An's imperial residence looked at him changed. They were no longer arrogant and condescending. Their arrogance was shattered by him. When they looked at him, they avoided his gaze. They did not dare to look him in the eye. They were afraid that he would kill them. Grandmasters could be killed at will, not to mention themselves. Chu Li's action was very effective in establishing his authority. Those who were jealous and even wanted to play some tricks quietly put away their thoughts. They decided to be more honest. He even dared to go against the Royal Highness. He killed 10 grandmasters in one go. What else would he not dare to do? Chapter 345. P.S. I posted it at 4, but the website didn't show it. I asked the editor to try and edit a few words before posting it. Outside Chongming Town, it was crowded. It was the wedding of the second lady of the public house, and she was marrying the famous prince and as the princess. This was a big event for Chongming Town. It was a great honor. The citizens of the city were proud of it. They had their breakfast early, cleaned themselves up, put on their festive clothes and left their houses early. They waited on the streets or outside the city. They wanted to catch a glimpse of King An's splendor. If they could see the beauty of the second lady, that would be even better. The residents outside the town came early. Some were impatient and waited at the town gate. Some wanted to see the second lady, so they went outside the public house. The whole Chongming town was in a festive mood. The street was crowded like the sea. People were jostling each other. It was more crowded than the Lantern Festival. Outside Chongming Town, Xiao Taiying brought a group of high-ranking members of the public house to welcome Prince An and his entourage. He had a complicated smile on his face. Prince An's guards of honor were all laid out. Every one of them was solemn and holy. The majesty of the royal family permeated the entire procession. The surrounding people looked on with mixed feelings, looking at the handsome prince and on the horse. Cheers could be heard from time to time. They felt that only a noble descendant like him, a royal highness with a good reputation, was worthy of the second lady. Chu Li quietly left the procession, and appeared on the island of Symphony of the public house. The island of Symphony was hung with red silk. It made the whole island look festive. When Chuli appeared on the island of Symphony, the atmosphere on the island was not as festive. When he arrived at Xiao Shi's room, other than Yang Su and Xueling, there was another man in the room. He was tall and slender, a head taller than him, handsome, sharp eyebrows, elegant temperament. When Yang Su and Xueling saw him, they were relieved. They gave him a look. Then they left. Chuli, this is the fourth. Xiao Shi sat in front of the dressing table, looking at him in the mirror. She pointed at the slender, handsome young man beside her. This guy finally came back. Chuli was surprised. This was the fourth young master of the public house, Xiao Baihe. Chuli greets the fourth young master. Chuli closed fist, saluted, and smiled. Xiao Baihe waved his hand. Chief Chu, you're welcome. Xiao Shi said, ignore him, he's just a nobody. Chuli smiled. Xiao Shi's expression did not look good. She scoffed. That bastard king and has entered the city? Chuli nodded. I'm entering the city now. Lady, it's time for you to put on your makeup. There's no need to put on makeup, just put on that outfit. Xiao Shi said calmly. I heard you've killed quite a number of people. Chuli said, I killed 10 grandmasters from the imperial residence of King An. Finally, my merit is complete. He had made all the preparations before this, asking for the help of various grandmasters and mobilizing all the forces that he could use, all for this moment. Fortunately, there were not too many twists and turns. In the end, he successfully cut off one of King An's arms and greatly damaged his vitality. In a short period of time, King An would not be able to harm the High Duke's public house. This was not only to harm King An, but also to intimidate him. He wanted to let him know that the House of High Dukes still had forces like the Dark Guards that he did not understand, so he did not dare to act rashly. Xiao Shi sneered, what a wishful thinking. He wants to be heavily injured midway and delay the wedding. Chuli smiled and said, His Highness King An's plan is very impressive. The success rate is very high and the risk is very low. It's brilliant. Xiao Shi gave him a sidelong glance. You've picked up a big bargain. 10 grandmasters died. I guess the imperial residence of King An will stop now? There should still be more than 10 grandmasters. We can't be careless. Master Xiao Taiying has to be careful to prevent him from going crazy. Chuli said. Xiao Baihe had been accompanying Xiao Shi and heard the protector's report. When he heard the news, he was extremely shocked. He had always concealed his identity and wandered the martial arts world. Until now, he had not become a grandmaster. But he knew the power of a grandmaster. And this young chief, who was below 1 and above 1,000 people in his public house, actually killed 10 grandmasters in one go. It was really shocking. More importantly, where did he get these grandmasters from? This was the real shock. Presumably, after tomorrow, the martial arts world would be in awe of the E-public house. The martial arts world would be in awe of the E-public house. The martial arts world within the borders would also be well-behaved and would not dare to cause trouble. The public house would be much more relaxed. Chief Chu, where did you get so many masters? Xiao Baihe smiled. The secret guards of the public house. If it was someone else, they would really believe it. Chuli smiled. I borrowed 6 people from the Ren public house. One of the third lady's best friend, 2 of my friends, plus 8 people from our public house. I even lured out Lu Yurong from the Ren public house. It's enough to take care of those 10 grandmasters. Your ability to create clouds and rain with a flip of your hand is really amazing. Xiao Baihe exclaimed. You can even borrow people from the Ren public house. He knew the hatred between the Ren public house and the E-public house. That woman, Lu Yurong, was even more powerful. Chuli said, Lu Yurong also knows the principle of being interdependent. I even helped her steal a treasure from the imperial residence of King An. That's why she agreed to borrow 6 grandmasters. You can convince Lu Yurong. Impressive. Xiaobaihe smiled. Chu Li said, I was forced to do so. If I can't control King'an, our public house will have no way out. It will be extremely difficult for me and the lady to enter the imperial residence. You have to be careful, Xiaobaihe said. How can King'an be satisfied? He will definitely get rid of you. Chu Li smiled. I have a way to protect myself. Don't worry, fourth young master. Xiaobaihe nodded. He was now very confident in Chu Li's methods. He smiled. I'll leave second sister to Chief Chu. Chu Li closed fist saluted. After entering the imperial residence, it's inevitable to suffer a little. I'll try my best. It's hard to predict a person's heart. I really didn't expect King'an to be this kind of person. Xiaobaihe shook his head and sighed. Big brother is in a lot of pain. He still has to welcome King'an today. I'm really afraid that he won't be able to hold it in and quarrel with King'an on the street. Big brother also received the news. Xiao Shi scoffed. He's in a good mood now. He won't mess around with King'an. All right, fourth young master, you can go now. All right, Xiaobaihe closed fist saluted. Chu Li closed fist saluted and watched him leave. He seemed to be deep in thought. This fourth young master was not simple. Seeing Xiaobaihe leaving the house through the mirror, Xiao Shi stood up and stretched her body. She showed off her graceful figure and scoffed. Chu Li, you're really amazing. Chu Li smiled. Lady, do you blame me for hiding it from you? At least you understand. Xiao Shi scoffed. Such a fun thing. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Let me be happy. She would feel restless whenever she heard about King'an. If she knew that Chu Li was preparing to deal with King'an, she would not be in such a bad mood. I'm not sure. If I fail, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Chu Li smiled. Xiao Shi said, this time it was really dangerous. We're lucky. You always like to take risks. Chu Li smiled. I don't want to go with him. I don't want to marry him. Xiao Shi's face darkened. She frowned. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. This. Chu Li smiled bitterly. We have to go through this. We can't just let it be. We'll just have to endure it. Let Yang Su pretend to be me, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li was shocked by her idea. He quickly waved his hand. It was not like King and had never seen Yang Su before. Once he found out, it would be a huge problem. This was a definite guarantee. If King'an were to explode on the spot, the wedding might really be delayed. Xiao Shi looked at his determined expression. She scoffed and said no more. After the wedding, what do we do? Chu Li smiled. We can imitate King'an's plan and get injured. That's true. Xiao Shi nodded. Once we're injured, we can avoid his entanglement. Chu Li said, actually, there are many ways. Lady, you don't have to worry. Who knows, once you leave the imperial residence, King'an might suddenly die. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. I'm not worried. Chu Li chuckled. You must hold the prayer beads properly. Don't lose them. Of course. Xiao Shi nodded. This was also where her confidence came from. If something went wrong, she could just crush it. Chu Li could come over instantly and take her away from danger. Lady, it's time to put on your makeup. Yang Su's voice came from outside. Master Xiao and the others have entered the city. Come in. Xiao Shi's face darkened. Chapter 346. Fourth Young Master. Chu Li fist saluted. Xiaobaihe cupped his fist and said gently, Chief Chu, let's have a chat. He pointed at the small pavilion in the middle of the sea of flowers. The two of them entered the gazebo. The white muslin fluttered in the wind, making it look like a dream. Chu Li suddenly felt a sense of melancholy. From now on, this pagoda would be empty and Xiao Shi would never appear again. The two of them stood in front of the railing. Xiaobaihe looked at the vast lake and sighed. Chu Li asked, Fourth young master, are you still leaving after coming back? Big brother insisted that I stay for a period of time. Xiaobaihe shook his head and sighed, but I am really not good at dealing with these matters in the residence. If the second lady leaves and the third lady goes into isolated cultivation, if you leave too, fourth young master, the eldest master will be the only one in such a big public house. It'll be hard for the eldest master to hold the fort alone. The eldest master must be very tired. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Fourth young master, it's better if you stay and help the eldest master. Xiao Baihe looked at him with a bitter smile. Big brother said, Chief Chu, you're very resourceful, you can see through people's minds, you're even more powerful than third sister. Unfortunately, I don't have this kind of ability, I'm just a pure martial artist, and my martial art is not as strong as third sister's, it can be said that I've achieved nothing. Chu Li smiled. The fourth young master has his own strength. There's no need to belittle yourself. Xiao Baihe shook his head. I understand my own matters, I won't be of any help even if I stay in the house. 2 heads are better than 1. Having a trustworthy person to discuss with is much better than being alone. Chu Li said, moreover, the second lady will be worried if you leave. Second sister. Xiao Baihe sighed. He shook his head vigorously, showing a pained expression. Second sister could have ignored the engagement and sacrificed herself. What was even more hateful was that she originally wanted to sacrifice herself for the High Duke's public house, but in the end, people's hearts were evil. Instead, she brought disaster to the High Duke's public house. Presumably, the one who suffered the most was second sister. As a man, he could not support the public house, but he had to let a weak woman like his second sister marry his enemy. There was no more merciless mockery than this. He took a deep breath, suppressed his surging thoughts, and revealed a warm smile. All right, I'll stay for a while. Accompany Big Brother. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Baihe said, How is third sister? Chu Li's smile slowly faded and he sighed. Second lady and third lady are too stupid. The second lady sacrificed herself for the House of High Dukes, and the third lady sacrificed herself for the House of High Dukes as well. Xiao Baihe said, Third sister is not doing well? Master has. Lady has. Lady. Chu Li shook his head and said, According to Senior Shin, there's a high chance of that. Xiao Baihe nodded lightly, looking at the vast lake. He clenched his fists tightly. The veins on his fists were faintly visible. The white gauze fluttered gently as the lake breeze blew gently. The two of them stood silently in front of the railing. Chu Li did not participate in the bustle of the wedding. Chu did of the wedding. Li did. Wang. Not Chu by Xiao Hua. Young. Xiao Guan. And of. Xiao of. With Xiao in. Xiao sure looked like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. She slowly entered the 16 palanquin and left Chongming town under the watchful eyes of the huge crowd. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu were waiting outside the town. Xiao Shi was escorted to the imperial residence of King An. This time, Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu escorted Xiao Shi to the imperial residence of King An. After arriving at the imperial residence of King An, they returned to the House of High Dukes. Chu Li brought Yang Su and Xue Ling to the imperial residence. Chu Li only brought Yang Su and Xue Ling into the imperial residence. Jiang Kuai did not go in to avoid any accident. King An hated him to the core. If Jiang Kuai went in with him, he would be angry. Chu Li Xiaohua was a rank 1 scribe and an honorable pet king and would not do anything to him if he was not confident. Jiang Kuai was not. Jiang Kuai could not fight back. He could only go in slowly. Sigh. Chief, can you go in alone? Zhao Qingshan sighed. Elder Lu and I will go with you. Lu Donglu nodded. That's right. It's such a big imperial residence. If you go alone, you will be isolated. Chu Li smiled. King An will take revenge. I'm alone and I don't have any flaws. He can't do anything to me. It's too dangerous for you to go in. It's been hard on you, Chief. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu shook their heads. They had a headache just thinking about it. Chu Li said, It won't be a peaceful journey. Be careful when you see an assassin. Don't rush forward. Run if things go south. The two of them chuckled. Chu said seriously, I'm afraid that King An will kill the lady. If he kills the lady, he can push the blame to the martial arts faction. Then he can get away safely. Yes, both of them said. Chu said, I will try to bring the lady away first. Don't expose yourself. Both of them nodded. Chu was not too worried about them. He was experienced in the martial arts world, and he had the spirit blessing pill with him. Moreover, if things went south, he could just send a signal, and someone would come to his aid. While they were talking, King An's joyous group of people slowly approached. The ceremonial guards were in front, and the people behind were blowing and beating drums. Chu led his horse and welcomed King An's group. He went straight to the side of the 16 palanquin. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu went to the other side. King An sat on the horse. He glanced at Chu coldly and pretended not to see. Now, every time he looked at Chu, he felt uncomfortable. He wanted nothing more than to get rid of him. After walking for 2 miles, the crowd dispersed. The ceremonial guards were put away again. The group sped up and rushed back to the fairy's capital as soon as possible. When it was noon, the group stopped at a post house. Chu came to the pagoda and closed fist saluted. Your Highness, the second lady has a request. Say it. King An was eating his rations and looked at him calmly. Chu said, It won't be a peaceful journey. The lady wants to go with me first. Chief Chu, this is against the rules, isn't it? Meng Ji said lightly, The second lady has already left the house. She is considered one of His Royal Highness people. How can we not go? Chu glanced at him and continued to look at King An. Your Highness won't have another group of people waiting to ambush the lady, right? How dare you? Zheng Li's expression changed and he shouted. Chu closed fist saluted and said seriously, The lady's body is weak. She can't take the journey. Please understand, Your Highness. If I don't agree, it will seem like I have ulterior motives. King An said calmly, All right, as long as she gets into the palanquin before entering the fairy's capital. She can go however she wants. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Chu closed fist saluted. King An waved his hand. He was too lazy to say more. Your Highness. Meng Ji shouted in dissatisfaction, How can you indulge him like this? King An smiled faintly, Don't bother. Let them be. Yes. Meng Ji could see the anger in King An's heart, but he was forcefully suppressing it. He knew it was inappropriate to say more. King An looked at the 16 palanquin and smiled. No matter how powerful Chu was, as long as he could control Xiao Shi, he would not be able to escape from his palm. Killing him would be as easy as flipping his hand. Xiao Shi was just a weak girl who did not know any martial art. As a grandmaster, he had plenty of ways to torment her. When night fell, he would take revenge on her and let her know how powerful he was. Thinking about this, King An felt an inexplicable pleasure of revenge. Chu was so loyal. Xiao Shi was so beautiful. If he said he had no feelings for Xiao Shi, no one would believe him. As long as there were feelings, it was the best. He wished he could take Xiao Shi on the spot. He wanted to play with her 1,000 ways and trample on her. He wanted to do it, especially in front of Chu. He wanted him to experience what it meant to be worse than death. As long as they entered the bridal chamber, wouldn't Xiao Shi be his plaything? No matter how powerful Chu was, he would still listen to him. If not, he would take revenge on Xiao Shi. He would torture Xiao Shi with all his might. Let's see if Chu would submit. Chapter 347. Although Chu could not see through Prince An's thoughts, he could guess it from his smile. He shook his head. They were both scheming. It was time to see who was more accurate. He brought Xiao Shi, who looked unfriendly, out of their field of vision and disappeared in a flash. He returned to the public house, his courtyard. Xiao Shi sat in the pagoda and scoffed coldly, Yang Su and Xueling will be fine, right? They will leave on their own. Someone will receive them, Chu Li said. Xiao Shi's face was cold and she frowned. Chu Li said, My lady, bear with it for a while. He won't live for long. What method did you use? Xiao Shi's spirit was lifted. Chu Li smiled, a very common method. Hurry up and tell me, Xiao Shi said impatiently. Chu Li looked at her. She had the Sarira prayer beads, so divine powers could not get close. He was not afraid that Su Ning would notice. Hurry up and tell me, Xiao Shi urged. Chu Li said, I planted a type of grass in Prince An's courtyard. It can make people excited, but it's not harmful to him. Once he cultivates, he'll easily go mad. The senseless grass that Chu Li asked Yuan Kuai to plant had already sprouted and was effective. Under normal circumstances, it would have little effect on Prince An. However, if Prince An cultivated in the cauldron, there was a high chance that he would go mad. If that did not work, then he would have to add fuel to the fire. He would be enraged and upset. When he enters the cauldron to cultivate, the two would overlap and the risk of going mad would be higher. This was already the safest way to kill Prince An. However, it still depended on Prince An's luck. If he was really lucky, he would not die in a short time. If he was unlucky, he might die after 1 or 2 times. Xiao Shi said, That's good. The two of them chatted for a while before Chu Li took her to 100,000 Hills for a stroll to relax. As soon as the two stepped into the Spirit Crane's peak, 2 white lights shot towards them. They were as fast as lightning and their long beaks were like sword. Chu Li was helpless. He could only leave with Xiao Shi. They could not be provoked now, and it was not suitable for them to interact. It was better to wait for the little spirit crane to come out. These 2 spirit cranes were not easy to approach. The little spirit crane was different. It was the purest and should be easy to fool. If he could have a spirit crane as a pet, it would be wonderful. The night passed. When everyone woke up the next day, Meng Ji counted the number of people according to the usual routine and suddenly shouted, Something's wrong. The number is wrong. Prince An frowned and looked at Meng Ji. Jing Lide walked towards Meng Ji. Deputy Commander Meng, what happened? Meng Ji's face was gloomy. Commander, we're down 4 people. Which 4? Jing Lide scoffed. Don't tell me they're from the House of High Dukes. Meng Ji shook his head. He belongs to our house. It's 4 guards, innate masters. That's impossible, right? Jing Lide frowned. There was no movement last night. Let them search. Form groups of 4 and don't split up. Yes. Meng Ji cupped his fist. He quickly organized his men and spread them out. He looked around. He's here. Someone shouted. Meng Ji hurriedly performed his light body technique and sprinted over. When he saw the situation in the field, his expression changed drastically. The 4 guards lay motionless on the ground, their bodies stiff. They had been dead for a long time. He squatted down to take a look at the wound, and his expression became more and more ghastly. It was a one-hit kill. His swordsmanship was outstanding, but this person should be an innate master, not a grandmaster. An innate master sneaked up to them. He had killed 4 protectors, but the few grandmasters who were present did not notice anything at all. It was the biggest joke in the world. What happened? Jing Lide walked over too. When he saw the 4 guards dead, his expression immediately darkened. After checking the wound, he came to the same conclusion as Meng Ji. Meng Ji whispered, Commander, could it be the 2 from the House of High Dukes? He glanced at Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu who were standing by the palanquin and said coldly, Even if it's not them, they're definitely related. Jing Lide shook his head. I've been watching them last night, they didn't do anything. There aren't many top-notch swordsmen like this in the martial arts world. Everyone, keep your spirits up, I'm afraid he'll continue to come. Meng Ji sneered. If he comes again, I'll make sure he can't go back. We'll be on guard tonight. Jing Lide said, It's a critical period now, It's nothing to endure for 2 days. Yes, Mengji nodded. They were the wedding procession, so it was impossible for them to bring the corpses back. They could only bury them first, then plant a tree and come back to pay their respects. That night, the two of them were on guard, one inside and one outside. Zheng Lide sat next to Princeton, while Meng Ji went to the outermost area and sat on a tree, overlooking the entire campsite. Any movement could be seen clearly. The night was calm and peaceful. However, the next morning, when they did a head count, they were missing 2 more protectors. The 2 were found in the forest 100 meters away, and they were still killed with 1 slash. Meng Ji and Zheng Lide could be sure that the 2 of them did not doze off. They were always in a state of alertness, guarding with a clear mind. They did not notice anything strange. No martial arts masters barged in, and there were no external objects that distracted them. They did not even notice when the 2 of them went out. This made the 2 of them shudder. Could it be the doing of a ghost? Then they denied this absurd thought. There must be a reason for it. They thought about it. The 2 protectors probably went out to relieve themselves, then they were killed without a sound. No matter how careful they were, if they wanted to relieve themselves, they couldn't do it in front of everyone. They had to walk a distance away to do it. It was at this distance that they were killed by this swordsman without a sound, killed with 1 slash. The 2 of them came in front of Princeton. Their faces were gloomy. Everyone's faces were a little gloomy. They were no longer as relaxed and joyous as before. 6 people were killed consecutively. The atmosphere of the wedding procession became heavy. Your Highness, let's try to return to the fairy's capital tonight, Zheng Lide said. Princeton looked at them calmly. You can't find out who did it? This fella's swordsmanship is extraordinarily high, Meng Ji said helplessly. Moreover, it's an innate master, very troublesome. It's not suitable to tangle with him here. Extraordinarily high swordsmanship. Princeton said lightly, is it Chu Li? It shouldn't be Chief Chu. Zheng Lide frowned. He doesn't need to kill these people. He should be venting his anger. It could be someone from the martial arts world. If Chu Li wanted to kill, he would kill a grandmaster. These protectors were not even in his eyes. He was too lazy to kill them. We're a few grandmasters. Can't we handle an innate master? Princeton said. Zheng Lide sighed. Killed with 1 slash, no need for a second slash, and without a sound. This fella is purely an assassin. This revenge must be avenged, but it's a big wedding now. It's better not to tangle with him. Stay for another night. Let the 2 from the High Duke's public house stand guard. If anyone goes out, let them accompany them. Princeton pondered for a moment, then calmly ordered. Yes, Zheng Lide closed fist saluted. This move was to kill with a borrowed knife, using the people from the High Duke's public house to kill the assassin, and also using the assassin to kill the people from the High Duke's public house. It all depended on who was more powerful, but no matter who was more powerful, Princeton would benefit. This move was really admirable. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu listened to Zheng Lide's orders. They did not say much, they happily agreed. If it was really a top-notch master, they would retreat. If it was not a top-notch master, they could just secretly let it go. Chapter 348. P.S. Thank you, Alliance Leader Han Jiangyi, for the reward of 100,000. The 2 of them wanted to scare the assassin away. Whether it was the enemy of the imperial residence or the public house, they did not want to go against this assassin. With the current situation, if the 2 of them were to make even the slightest mistake, Princeton might take the opportunity to kill them and frame the assassin. However, the 2 of them could not shout, so they could only scare the assassin with their appearance. The assassin was only an innate master. Once he faced 2 grandmasters, he had no chance of winning, so he would not come out. Chi, a soft sound was heard, and the 2's eyes lit up. A black sword suddenly shot out from the ground, and pierced a protector's throat. Following that, a black shadow shot out from the ground like a wisp of smoke. It took over the black sword that was stuck in the guard's throat and flashed past the other 2 guards at an incredible speed. The tip of the black sword swept past their throat. The three protectors clutched their throats and fell to the ground at the same time. It showed how fast the sword was. "How dare you!" Lu Donglu shouted and waved his palm. Zhao Qingshan scoffed, "Who are you? Don't let him go." Meng Ji rushed over like a galloping horse and shouted. He tailed Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu in the dark to see if the two of them were colluding with each other and cooperating with the assassin. If they were not colluding with each other, it would not be possible for them to have so many guards silently. Once they colluded with the assassin, His Highness would have an excuse to kill. Who? Zhao Qingshan's palm energy was like a raging wave hitting the shore, and hit the man in black. The slender figure of the man in black flashed, and he was unusually agile. He hid behind a tree, then flashed again, and appeared behind another tree. He was fast and agile, the three of them could not surround him, and could only chase behind him. Zhao Qingshan chased and shouted, "Commander Meng, could it be a diversion? Even if it is, we must kill this guy first." Meng Ji was determined. They chased relentlessly. The man in black's light body technique was very powerful. The three of them chased for more than 10 miles in one breath, and only then did they surround the man in black. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu were helpless. They had reached this point. They could not possibly kill Meng Ji. Moreover, they did not know the background of this assassin. Who knew if this was Prince An's trick? Based on Prince An's gloomy temperament, he would sacrifice a few innate masters in order to deal with the two grandmasters. He could definitely do it. Attack! Meng Ji shouted and struck out with his fist first. He was afraid of the other party's powerful swordsmanship, and with the three of them attacking together, it was better to be safe than sorry. There was no need to take the risk of getting close. Grandmasters were also made of flesh and blood. When they were hit by a sword, their vital energy barrier would block it for a while, but it would not be able to block it completely. However, blocking it would give them an opportunity to dodge, so it was very difficult for grandmasters to kill them. But it was difficult to kill. There were risks too, and he would avoid them if he could. At Meng Ji's position, he cherished his life the most. Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu followed up with their punches and palms. The power of their palms and fists enveloped the black-robed swordsman like a gale. The swordsman in black slid his feet and suddenly appeared in front of Meng Ji. The black sword flashed and stabbed right in front of Meng Ji's throat. Meng Ji's throat was blocked by inner energy, as if there was an invisible air shield. He quickly tilted his head to avoid it and broke out in a cold sweat. Instinctively, he struck out with his palm. Bang! The black-robed swordsman's chest was hit and he flew out. He flew high and far, using the power of this palm to perform his light body technique. He disappeared in front of everyone's eyes at an extremely fast speed. He entered the forest. Chase! Meng Ji scoffed angrily and stared at Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu. Could it be your people? Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu quickly shook their heads. Meng Ji's feet fluttered and he scoffed coldly. I think the two of you are just doing it half-heartedly. 3 grandmasters can't even take down an innate master. How shameless! Sigh. Zhao Qingshan shook his head. This fella's body technique is strange and his swordsmanship is outstanding. He really can't be seen as an innate master. He is an innate master. Meng Ji scoffed coldly. If we really can't take him down, I will ask for punishment from the Royal Highness. You guys won't be able to escape either. Both of their faces changed slightly. His move was ruthless enough. Once he asked for punishment, Prince An would agree to it. Both of them would be guilty too. Then the punishment would be up to Prince An. Even if they didn't die, they would at least be skinned. Chase. When the two of them thought about that, they could only put in more effort. They secretly sighed at the people from the imperial residences scheming and plotting against others. Their methods of scheming were indeed impressive. If Chief Chu entered the imperial residence, it would not be good. Although the black-robed swordsman's body technique was fast, He was injured. He might be fast for a while, but he couldn't last long. Soon, the three of them caught up to him. Seeing that they were going to be surrounded again, this time, Zhao Qingshan and Lu Donglu couldn't hold back anymore. They had to make him stay. Suddenly, a white shadow fluttered past the three of them and went to the black-robed swordsman's side. She put her hand on his shoulder and fluttered away. Only a sweet and cold laughter was left in the air. 3 grandmasters can't do anything to an innate master. The imperial residence of Prince N and the public house are really a family. You're all idiots. Lu Yurong. Meng Ji had a good memory. Once he heard the voice, he immediately knew who the white shadow was. He shouted, "Lady Lu, my royal highness won't let this go." "I won't let this go either." Lu Yurong's ethereal voice sounded like it came from the sky. In the end, it couldn't be heard anymore. It was obvious that she went far away. The three of them stopped. Meng Ji turned his head and sneered. "It's the High Duke's public house's doing, isn't it?" Zhao Qingshan scoffed. "Commander Meng, how can you say that? The Rin public house and the High Duke's public house are mortal enemies. Commander Meng, are you saying that we're in cahoots? What about the last time?" Meng Ji scoffed. "Didn't she come out to help the High Duke's public house?" "Commander Meng, you're a smart person. How can you be so muddle-headed? Did she really want to help the public house?" Zhao Qingshan said impatiently. "She wanted to take advantage of us, but Chief Chu saw through her. She had no choice but to help. Her purpose was not to help but to frame us. She wanted to make you think that we're in cahoot. Can't Commander Meng see through such a small scheme?" Lu Donglu sneered. "I think it's not that Commander Meng can't see through it. She's just making a fuss." Meng Ji scoffed. "In short, this matter is definitely related to the High Duke's public house." He had made up his mind to drag this matter to the public house. If not, he would be guilty of dereliction of duty. Once the public house was involved, the Royal Highness would only hate the High Duke's public house out of anger and not him. Then we'll have to go to the Royal Highness and make things clear. Zhao Qingshan said, "Commander Meng is really unscrupulous in order to avoid the crime of dereliction of duty." "Shut up." Meng Ji scoffed and turned to leave. Chu Li and Xiao Shi sat in a gazebo. Lu Yurong glided over and threw the swordsman in black into the gazebo. She said lightly, "Chu Li, you owe me another life. Remember to pay me back." Chu Li closed fists saluted. "Thank you, Lady Lu." Lu Yurong scoffed, "If I'm in danger, or Big Brother is in danger, you have to save them." She had already found out that Chu Li had the ability to resurrect the dead and could perform the eclipse purloin technique. Chu Li smiled. "I'll try my best." Lu Yurong glanced at Xiao Shi and glided away. Xiao Shi frowned. "How are you going to ask for her help?" Chu Li said, "It's not convenient for me to do it myself. I don't want to give Prince N a chance to cause trouble." Fourth Young Master. Chapter 349. Xiao Baihe smiled bitterly. "You guessed it?" Chu Li smiled. "I didn't expect the fourth young master to have such a profound swordsmanship. I still can't defeat a grandmaster." Xiao Baihe shook his head. Chu Li said, "If it's just one grandmaster, fourth young master, you won't be a problem, but 3. Fourth young master, what kind of sword technique is this?" "Soul-chasing life-taking sword." Xiao Baihe sighed. "It's a pity that I haven't mastered it." "Soul-chasing deadly sword." Chu Li sighed. "The sword lives up to its name." Xiao Shi scoffed. "Fourth brother, what are you doing? There are 4 grandmasters and you still want to provoke them?" "Second sister, if I don't kill a few people, I really can't vent my anger." Xiao Baihe clenched his teeth and scoffed. "If it wasn't for the fact that I can't kill King N, I would have done it long ago." "You're crazy." Xiao Shi snapped. "What's the use of killing a few people? If something were to happen to you, what would happen to Big Brother and us? How would we explain it to Mother 100 years later?" Xiao Baihe looked at her helplessly. Xiao Shi said, "You're not allowed to compete with the people from King An's imperial residence, or else I'll break your legs myself." Xiao Baihe sighed. "I'm just angry, second sister. You have to be careful. King An is a very treacherous person." "Of course I know that." Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. "Just don't give me a hard time. Hurry up and go back." Xiao Baihe looked at Chuli. Chuli smiled and shook his head. An invisible force entered his body and healed his internal organs. It was as if he was immersed in a hot spring. Meng Ji's palm energy kept on entangling his body, and he could not get rid of it no matter what. After all, Meng Ji was a grandmaster, and his inner energy was extremely pure, so it was not something that he could get rid of. But under this warm energy, Meng Ji's palm force quickly dissipated, like snow meeting sunlight. "Chief Chu, thank you." Xiao Baihe cupped his fists. Chu Li smiled. "Fourth young master, be careful. The people from the imperial residence of King An will not give up. When you go out, you must follow a grandmaster." "And I understand." Xiao Baihe nodded. This was his first time going up against a grandmaster, and he knew how powerful they were. It was true that he was no match for them, and he had to concentrate on his cultivation for a while to have any hope. However, it was a pity that the Grandmaster's boundary was difficult. It was not something that could be broken through just because one wanted to. When he thought of this, he looked at Chuli. Chuli was younger than him, but he had already broken through to the Grandmaster's boundary. He really did not know what kind of fortuitous encounter he had. "All right. Let's go quickly." Xiao Shi said, "Be careful on the road, don't let them kill you." "Second sister, I am an experienced person," Xiao Baihe said with smile. Xiao Shi scoffed. "It's you old-timers who are going to suffer. Don't be careless." "Yes, then I'll take my leave first." Xiao Baihe cupped his fist, and with a flash, he had already disappeared into the woods. Xiao Shi shook her head and said, "This guy is really worrisome." Chu Li said, "The fourth young master's martial arts are profound. He will definitely achieve great things in the future. Let's go." "Heis. The thought of going to the wedding ceremony makes me want to die." Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li did not say anything. He did not feel good about it either. If all of his plans did not work and he still could not kill King An, Xiao Shi would really be in the fire pit. She could only fake her death and escape, or he could just kidnap her and disappear without a trace, making it an unsolved case. Seeing Chu Li's expression, Xiao Shi smiled and said, "Don't look so gloomy. If the spiritual crane doesn't work, let's try another peak?" "Another peak?" Chu Li frowned and shook his head. "I have seen the power of the spirit beast. If I go to another peak and provoke another spirit beast, what if it chases me out of the 100,000 hills? Forget it." After Chu Li saw the spiritual crane, he realized that the spirit beast was far stronger than what was written in the books. The spiritual crane was still fine. If he encountered a more ferocious spirit beast, it would definitely kill him. Even if it chased him out of the 100,000 hills, once he was out of the 100,000 hills, he would not be able to stop it. If it went on a killing spree, he wouldn't be able to stop it and could only watch as it killed people. That was truly a grave sin. If he really wanted to go to another peak, he would have to wait until his omniscient mirror was stronger to be able to see further, or the scripture of life and death improved further. King An and the others quickly saw the majestic fairy's capital. They also saw the 4 people outside the fairy's capital. Xiao Shi was wearing a white tunic that covered her face. Beside her were Yang Su and Xueling. Behind her stood Chu Li. Even outside the gate where people were coming and going, the 4 of them were still very conspicuous. When they saw King An, they moved over. Xiao Shi entered the sedan while the 2 ladies stood beside the sedan. Chu Li approached King An and closed-fist saluted. "Greetings, Your Royal Highness. You guys left fast." King An said calmly, "Did you see the assassin?" "What assassin?" Chu Li pretended to be surprised. King An smiled faintly. Lu Yu Rong joined hands with you? Chu Li said, the Ren and Yi public houses have a blood feud. So many people died on both sides. Do you think it's possible, Your Royal Highness? King An said lightly, there is nothing impossible in this world. Especially when two smart people like you come together, the impossible becomes possible. Chu Li said seriously, Your Royal Highness has overestimated me. I don't have the ability to resolve the feud between the two public houses. Lu Yu Rong. King An smiled faintly. One day, I will take her down. Chu Li said, then I hope King An succeeds. King An glanced at him and waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Chu Li tactfully went to the side of the sedan. The ceremonial procession was set up and music was played, attracting people's attention. Only then did they remember that King An went down to welcome the second lady of the Yi public house. The first beauty of the great Ji dynasty was back. The people quickly rushed over. If it was not for the Divine Light Army from the fairies' capital who came to maintain order, the passionate people would have overturned the sedan to see the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. Chu Li, Xue Ling and Yang Su accompanied the sedan. They followed the crowd into the fairies' capital and arrived at the imperial residence of King An. What followed was a lively ceremony. They bowed to heaven and earth and entered the bridal chamber. It was grander and more complicated than the wedding of the commoners. It went from noon to night. Then the banquet started. Chu Li, as a member of the bride's family, was a rank 1 scribe. His identity was enough to sit at the top table. There were 5 people at this table. Other than Chu Li, he did not recognize the other 4. The one sitting at the back was a skinny young man. He was about the same age as Chu Li. He was smiling with a hint of naughtiness. He looked like a gangster. Chu Li would not underestimate him. Those who could sit at this table were not of low status. The young man stood up, cupped his fists and said with a smile, Chief Steward Chu, come, allow me to introduce myself. I am Li Gui, the Deputy Chief Steward of the Prince's Mansion. This is Princess Consort Xue's elder brother, General Xuetai. This is Princess Song's elder brother, Song Menglin, Reading Assistant Song. This is our Prince's Mansion's Chief Steward, Song Sansi. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and closed fist, saluted with a smile. Chu Li greets General Xue and Reading Secretary Song. We will be a family from now on. If I have done anything wrong or offended you, I hope that General Xue and Reading Secretary Song will be magnanimous enough to forgive me. He scoffed. Among the people here, his rank was the highest. However, these people deliberately put on airs and bullied him. They wanted to put him in his place. They did not even take the initiative to greet him. Instead, they wanted him to speak first. He had already found out about Xuetai and Song Menglin. Their statuses were different, so he could not be too presumptuous. As for the 2 deputy chief of the imperial residence, he did not need to be polite. He would soon be their direct superior. There was no need to give them face. Chief Chu, you are so young. To be able to advance to rank 1, we are extremely envious. Xuetai laughed. He looked ordinary. He had a long face and narrow eyes. When he looked around, there was a cold glint in his eyes. It was obvious that his hands were stained with blood. He was tough and strong. Chu Li held up his silver cup and smiled. General Xue has guarded the borders for the country. Your contributions are great. Let me toast to General Xue. He finished speaking and drank the cup in one go. Chapter 350. P.S. Pleading for monthly vote. I feel that it's too harsh and everyone is used to it. Don't vote monthly, that's not good. You need the stimulation of monthly vote. Chu Li raised his silver cup again and smiled at Song Menglin. Scholar Song is full of knowledge and has the ability to rule the world. I admire you for doing things for the people. Here's to you, Scholar Song. As he finished his cup in one gulp. Scholar Song nodded with a smile and finished his cup as well. Chu Li happily toasted them twice before he turned to look at Song Sansi and Li Gui, who had been laughing all this while. The two of them did not have any intention of toasting and pretended not to drink. Chu Li smiled at Li Gui. Chiefly, are you Princess Shue's scribe? Yes, Li Gui smiled and nodded. I was born in the Shui residence and grew up with the princess. Seems like you're loyal, Chu Li smiled. Then Chief Song is Princess Song's scribe? Song Sansi bowed and smiled. Yes, I was originally young master's scribe. After the lady entered the imperial residence, I followed her. Please advise me in the future, Chief Chu. Chu Li smiled. You flatter me. Chief Song is the head of internal affairs. I would like to ask Chief Song for more guidance. Even if he was suppressed by Prince N and could not be the inner chief, he did not have to lower his head to Song Sansi because of his high rank. Moreover, if Prince N dared to do so, he would be attacked by everyone. The rank was the foundation of the Ji dynasty. Any official would defend it firmly and would not allow anyone to step on it. This was related to the personal interests of every official. Even the emperor would not do so. Song Sansi was only rank 3 while Chu Li was rank 1. The difference in rank was huge. Shuetai sighed and said, Chief Chu, I have to inform you in advance. Please speak, General Shui. Chu Li was all ears. Shuetai said, This sister of mine didn't have parents since she was young. I raised her single-handedly, but I'm a soldier, so I don't come back many times a year. She's the only one at home, so she's spoiled and spoiled. If she offends you in the future, I hope that Chief Chu will forgive her for the sake of me as her brother. Chu Li was stunned. He quickly closed fists, saluted and said, General Shui, you're too kind. Princess Shui is the princess, and we are just guards. How dare we argue? Sigh. This girl's temperament is not bad, but her temper is a bit bad. Shuetai shook his head and sighed. She has already grown up and her temper can't be changed. It's a good thing that your highness is benevolent and can tolerate her temper. Chu Li smiled and said, His Royal Highness is benevolent and magnanimous. As a member of the imperial residence, I should imitate His Royal Highness style. I'm relieved to hear that. Shuetai gave him a deep look. Chu Li said, I've heard from the outside that it's not just King An's rend. Even the Shui and Song Wangfei are virtuous people. It is a great fortune for my miss to marry into the Wangfu. Another toast to everyone. Everyone looked at him meaningfully, watching him lie with his eyes wide open. They all secretly thought that this guy was not a good person. To be able to say such nonsense as if it were the truth, he was definitely not a gentleman. Li Gui laughed and said, Chief Chu, what we're most curious about is how you became a rank 1. I heard that Chief Chu has only been in the imperial residence for 2 years. You're really fast. Chu Li squinted his eyes and smiled. This guy did not come with good intentions. He was using his qualifications to make an issue out of it. Chu Li smiled and said, Speaking of which, it's fate. When I first entered the imperial residence, I was a normal person without any foundation. I was a lowly servant with no rank. After many fortuitous encounters, now that I think about it, it's like a dream. During that period of time, I made a few great contributions and saved the lady twice. However, if it wasn't for Master Xiao Taiying's wisdom and decisiveness in making decisions based on contributions without considering qualifications or background, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to advance to rank 1. Chu Li did not wait for Li Gui to speak and continued, That's why I said that my rank 1 is both destined and man-made. If it wasn't for Master Xiao Taiying, and if it was another house of High Duke, no matter how great my contributions were, due to my limited qualifications, I'm afraid I would only be rank 3. So that's how it is. Everyone looked as if they had a sudden realization. They had a detailed understanding of Chu Li. After all, he was a rank 1 scribe in the House of High Duke. He was an important person and was second only to the High Duke and the young masters and ladies in the House of High Duke. Sometimes, his words were even more effective than the young masters and ladies. Li Gui forced a smile and said, "A normal person who never built his foundation for 2 years has become a master. I'm ashamed." Chu Li smiled and said, "If it's a normal cultivation, without the help of God, no matter how talented you are, you can't compare to me, Chief Li." Li Gui's smile became even more forced. He understood the meaning behind Chu Li's words. What Chu Li meant was that Chu Li was favored by God and Li Gui was not qualified to compare to him. "Come, let's talk less and drink more." Song Sansi laughed and said. Chu Li held his silver cup and waved his hand at the maid who rushed over to pour him wine. He smiled and said, "Chief Song, please forgive me. My alcohol tolerance is very low." These 3 cups were already forced. I drank because I didn't want to be rude in front of General Shui and reading Secretary Song. I can't drink anymore. Please enjoy yourselves, I'm sorry that I can't keep you company. Song Sansi laughed and said, "Chief Chu, you're wrong. As a martial arts master, how can you have such a low alcohol tolerance?" Chu Li laughed and said, "Martial arts has nothing to do with alcohol tolerance. Unless I use martial arts to force myself to drink, I might as well not drink at all." He looked at Shui Tai and Song Menglin and said, "General Shui, reading Secretary Song, I'm sorry. I'm worried about the lady and would like to go and take a look. I'll take my leave first." "The imperial residence is heavily guarded tonight," Shui Tai smiled and said, "Didn't you see that Commander Zheng and Commander Meng are not at the table? They're all patrolling. Chief Chu, you don't have to worry, this is the imperial residence." Chu Li pondered for a moment and slowly said, "That's true. I'm sure the protectors of the imperial residence are not bad. Alright, let's drink 2 cups then." Song Sansi chuckled, and quickly signaled the maid with his eyes. After Chu Li drank 2 cups, he stood up and went to the toilet. As soon as he entered the toilet, his figure disappeared in a flash and appeared in the house in Qing Yun Town. He channeled to get rid of the alcohol, and there was no smell of alcohol around him. He changed into another set of clothes and channeled the heavenly demonic power at the same time. He turned into another person with a skinny figure and a long and narrow face. He picked up the sword on the table and appeared in Prince Anne's study room in the next moment. There was no one guarding outside the study room. He walked out of the study room and silently floated towards the courtyard of the new princess, Xiao Shi. Meng Ji was standing at the entrance of the courtyard and personally guarding it, afraid that something might happen. Chu Li's figure swept past Meng Ji like a ghost and entered the courtyard. He then slammed open the window and entered the room. A cold light flashed on his waist and instantly pierced Xiao Shi's heart. In the room, Yang Su and Xue Ling were talking to Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi threw the red cloth that covered her face to the side and sat on the couch eating fruits out of boredom. She was completely defenseless. Yang Su was stunned. Xue Ling flew over, but she was not as fast as Chu Li's body technique. Xiao Shi screamed and fell on the couch. Xue Ling did not care about the assassin and quickly took out the spirit blessing pill and stuffed it into Xiao Shi's mouth. Meng Ji was shocked and shouted, "Assassin!" Chu Li turned around and left. He swept past Meng Ji like a ghost. Meng Ji chased after him, and there were 2 grandmasters behind him. Chu Li went straight into Prince Anne's study room and slapped a desk away. He lifted the floorboard under the desk and entered a secret passage. He held the floor with both hands and waited there. When Meng Ji and the others reached here, their bodies stopped. They recognized that it was the Royal Highness's study room and that no one was allowed to enter without permission. He clenched his teeth and waved at the 2 grandmasters. He rushed into the study room and saw Chu Li sneering at them. He then closed the floorboard and disappeared. They hurriedly opened the floorboard and revealed the tunnel underneath. Meng Ji did not care about anything else and chased after him. He hurriedly ran along the tunnel and finally appeared outside the fairy's capital. In a dense forest, he lost Chu Li. Once Chu Li entered the tunnel, he activated the heavenly demonic power and restored his appearance. The next moment, he appeared in Qingyun town. He hung up his long sword and changed his clothes. He appeared in the toilet again and walked out calmly. Chapter 351. He stretched lazily and smiled at the maid who was waiting beside him. "Let's go back." "Yes." The maid smiled sweetly and led the way. As soon as Chu Li sat down, he yawned and shook his head. "I really can't hold my liquor anymore." "Then Chief Chu should work hard to force us to drink." Xuetai laughed and said, "We won't complain." That's right, that's right." Everyone nodded. Chu Li said, "I'm still a little worried about the lady. I'll drink one more cup and go over to take a look." Song Sansi waved his hand and smiled. "Chief Steward Chu, you are too careful and underestimate our Wang Fu. Let's not talk about anything else, but Wang Fei's safety is absolutely assured. No one can break into Wang Fei's courtyard." Chu Li shook his head and said, "The High Duke's public house oppresses the martial arts world and has offended countless martial arts masters. It's inevitable that there will be top-notch masters among them. They will risk their lives to kill the lady to vent their anger. It's better to be careful. The prince's mansion has sent out all the masters and put up the most rigorous formation. Not to mention those martial arts masters, even a fly can't fly in." Song Sansi smiled and said, "So Chief Chu, you can rest assured and drink your wine." Chu Li smiled and said nothing. Li Gui also said, that's right. The Wang Fu's security is the tightest today. Chief Steward Chu can rest assured." Xuetai laughed and said, "The Wang mansion is still very strong." Secretary Song nodded slightly and smiled. They were all vaguely aware of King An's ambition. He was secretly gathering martial arts masters from all over the world. There were quite a number of martial arts masters in the imperial residence. They did not know that Chu Li had slaughtered more than half of the grandmasters in one fell swoop. The imperial residence was not that strong now. "All right then. Since everyone says so, let's have another drink." Chu Li raised his silver cup and smiled. Just as he was about to drink it, Yang Su ran over while holding up her skirt. She was panting and her chest was heaving up and down violently. "In chief, young miss was attacked by an assassin." The silver cup fell to the ground with a clang. Chu Li's expression changed and he stood up immediately. He disappeared in front of everyone like a gust of wind. Yang Su heaved a sigh of relief. Her body suddenly felt limp, and she hurriedly held onto the chair to prevent herself from collapsing. Her heart was burning with anxiety as she ran all the way here in one breath. Only now did he realize his exhaustion and the burning pain in his chest. He had run too fast. "What happened?" Li Gui hurriedly asked. "Miss Yang, princess consort?" Song Sansi said in a low voice, "Is Wang Fei all right?" Yang Su shook her head and bit her lower lip. "Princess Heart was stabbed. Is princess consort dead?" Xuetai hurriedly asked. Yang Su had a worried look on her face. Fortunately, Sister Xueling was there and helped Lady Xiao consume the spirit blessing pill. But the injury is too serious, and it's in the heart. I don't know what will happen. As she spoke, she slowly moved away. The four people at the table were speechless. Just now, she was still trying to persuade Chu Li to relax, saying that the protectors of the imperial residence were absolutely safe, but on the other side, an assassin had barged in and stabbed the princess's heart. It was a fatal wound. If it were not for the public house's famous spirit blessing pill, she would have died. They were not in a hurry to look. Now that the prince's mansion was on guard, rushing over would only add to the chaos. Chu Li glided to Xiao Shi's courtyard. Zheng Lide and Meng Ji were already guarding the entrance. He coldly glanced at the two of them. "If anything happens to Lady Xiao, I want both of you to be buried with her." Zheng Lide's face darkened. Meng Ji also stared at him, but he could not retort back. This matter was indeed their great dereliction of duty. They actually allowed the assassin to barge in, stab the princess's heart, and then swagger away. What was worse was, they did not manage to catch up. This time, they were completely dumbfounded, showing their incompetence. This matter not only offended Chuli, the princess, but also the two concubines. Even the royal highness was suspicious of the two of them, doubting their abilities. This assassination not only severely injured the princess, but also the two of them. Chuli hurriedly entered the courtyard and came to the main hall. He saw Princeton dressed in a big wedding robe. He sat at the table with a gloomy face. Su Ning stood beside him. Chuli closed fist saluted and went straight into the bedroom. Xue Ling was sitting cross-legged on the bed. Her hands were behind Xiao Shi's back. White steam was rising from the top of her head. Xiao Shi had already fainted. Her eyes were shut tight. Her beautiful face was as pale as paper. She sat there motionlessly. It was pitiful. Chuli sighed. He really did hit hard. Not only did he stab her heart, but his inner energy also entered her body, wreaking havoc in her meridians. Her internal organs were all heavily injured. No wonder Xue Ling was so tired. "Let me do it," Chuli said. Xue Ling let out a long sigh of relief and opened her eyes. "Master," Chuli waved his hand, "it's good that you're alive." Xue Ling blamed herself. "I reacted too slowly. I didn't manage to protect Lady Xiao in time." "It's not that you're slow, it's that the opponent was too fast." "All right, it's fine now," Chuli said. "Just take the spirit blessing pill in time." "The medicine has been dissolved," Xue Ling said. Chuli sat cross-legged behind Xiao Shi. Both palms were placed on his back. Spiritual energy from all directions rushed in. Princeton walked into the house and said in a deep voice, "How is it?" Chuli looked at him indifferently and scoffed, "I won't die." His dissatisfaction was obvious. Princeton was secretly angry, but he knew it was not the right time to explode. He looked at Xiao Shi, who was as pale as paper. "I've already called for the imperial physician from the imperial hospital. He'll be here soon." Chuli said, "Can the imperial physician treat this kind of injury?" "With the spirit blessing pill from the Xiao family, the princess' life will not be in danger." Princeton said, "If the imperial physician comes to take a look, there shouldn't be any major problems." Chuli channeled with both of his hands. His shirt fluttered. He said lightly, "I hope so." "Does your Royal Highness want to take a look?" Princeton frowned. "I've seen her injury. The most troublesome part is that inner energy. It's really strange." This inner energy was Chuli's heavenly demonic energy. It was weak but had the ability to devour. The purer the inner energy was, the stronger it was. If the inner energy was not pure enough, it would not care. Chuli let go and shook his head. "Let's take a look at the imperial physician's skills." Yang Su's voice came from outside. "Chief, the imperial physician is here." "Let her in," Chuli said. Soon, a short old woman came in. Her hair was silvery white, shining, her face was rosy, and her eyes were bright. She looked like she was in her 80s or 90s, but at the same time, she looked like she was in her 50s or 60s. She had a contradictory temperament. She looked young and old at the same time. "Grandmother Dong, I've troubled you." Prince and Closed Fist saluted. Grandmother Dong curtsied. "Your Royal Highness is too polite. I'll take a look." She came to the bed and felt Xiao Shi's pulse. Her expression did not change. Chuli saw her heaviness through the omniscient mirror, but he did not show it. Princeton stared at her, not even blinking. After a while, Grandmother Dong slowly let go. Princeton quickly asked, "How is it?" Grandmother Dong sighed and said hesitantly, "Your Royal Highness, I'm afraid what I have to say is not pleasant." "Just say it," Princeton quickly said. Grandmother Dong sighed. "The princess' injury this time is too serious. Even if she recovers, I'm afraid there will be repercussions. Her body is ruined." "What repercussions?" Princeton quickly asked. Grandmother Dong looked around. Chuli said, "We are all Lady Xiao Shi's family, there is no need to avoid." Grandmother Dong sighed. The princess' body will be abnormally weak. She must not do anything intense. Her emotions must not be fluctuating too much. She must not be angry, she must not be agitated. Most importantly, she must not have sex. Otherwise, her life will be in danger. What? Prince An's face changed. Grandmother Dong shook her head. I know this is difficult for your Royal Highness. But if you want the princess to live, you can't do these. She is injured in her heart meridian. Once her heart beats too fast, she will die at any time. Remember this. Grandmother Dong, your medical skills are godly. Is there nothing you can do? Prince An said. Chapter 352. Prince An stared blankly at Xiao Shi. His handsome face kept changing colors. Grandmother Dong took out a row of silver needles from the medicine box and slowly inserted a few needles into Xiao Shi's body. She then touched Xiao Shi's wrist and closed her eyes to focus on feeling the changes in her pulse. Chu Li stared at Grandmother Dong. She inserted the needles near Xiao Shi's heart meridian. After the needles were inserted, the acupoints quickly emitted a breath like water from a spring. These breaths condensed and formed a strange power. It blocked the destruction of the heavenly demonic energy and soothed Xiao Shi's injury. Chu Li was surprised. The breath that came out of nowhere did not come from Grandmother Dong. It was the acupoints that were pierced by the silver needles. They could actually block the heavenly demonic energy. The wonders of the human body were unfathomable. He had yet to fully understand it. He had the omniscient mirror. He could clearly see the flow of the breath inside and outside the body. Grandmother Dong had such ability just by reading the pulse. Her medical skills were really amazing. If there was a chance, he should ask her for advice. He had already memorized the acupoints. He wanted to test it out later. These needles were extraordinary and could be considered a life-saving technique. Xiao Shi slowly opened her eyes. Chu Li quickly said, My lady. Xiao Shi saw him and nodded lightly. She looked around and frowned. Her voice was weak. Did you catch the assassin? Chu Li shook his head. His body technique is too fast. He escaped. Escaped. Xiao Shi coughed twice. Her pale face flushed red. Grandmother Dong quickly said, Princess, don't be angry. Chu Li said, My lady, your heart meridian is injured. Your emotions cannot change drastically. Don't worry. His Royal Highness will send someone to catch him. Xiao Shi glanced at Prince and regained his senses and smiled gently. Don't worry, Princess. I will avenge you. No matter where that guy escapes to, I will tie him up and bring him to you. Xiao Shi nodded lightly and said, Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Princess, don't worry and recuperate. Prince An said hatefully, Such a lawless thief. I will not let him go. Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness, I am worried about the Imperial Residence's guards. Prince An frowned. They tried their best. But this person's body technique is too fast. Chu Li said, It's precisely because you've tried your best that I'm worried. If they had the strength to spare, I wouldn't have to worry. Next time, I'll just ask them to put in more effort. This time, it wasn't because they slacked off, it was because their cultivation was insufficient. It's because my lightness skill is too weak. What do you think? King An asked. Chu Li said in a low voice, I will personally guard Lady Xiao's place to prevent the assassin from coming back to assassinate her again after finding out that he did not kill her. That's not appropriate, is it? Prince An's face darkened. You're a man living in the backyard? What a scandal! Chu Li said, I'm sure the Royal Highness has heard Grandmother Dong's words. Lady's body is now weak and vulnerable. If anything happens to Lady, who will be responsible? Prince An understood what he meant. Xiao Shi's body was too weak now, even if the two of them had an affair. Even if he wanted to, he didn't have the strength to do such a shameful thing. This made him feel relieved, but he still felt uncomfortable. Chu Li closed fist saluted and said solemnly, "Please grant my wish, your Royal Highness." Xiao Shi asked, "Are you sure that he'll come back?" Chu Li said coldly, "He could easily kill Lady Xiao Shi once, there will definitely be a second time. If there's a second time, Lady Xiao might not be so lucky. If he knew about the spirit blessing pill, how could he not have a way? The spirit blessing pill was not omnipotent. Kill someone, then cut off his head. Throw it somewhere else, no matter how magical the spirit blessing pill was, it would not be able to grow a new head." "Alright." Princeton thought for a while and finally nodded slowly. "Since you want to guard her, then stay in the courtyard next door. If there's any movement, I can hear it." This assassin was too powerful. If he really succeeded and killed Xiao Shi, he would not be able to explain himself. Unfortunately, none of the masters in the residence could defend against him. Moreover, if there was a problem, he was one of his subordinates, he would definitely be criticized. Since Chu Li liked this hot potato, it would be for the best. "Thank you for granting my wish, your Royal Highness." Chu Li closed fist saluted. Princeton waved his hand. "Princess, I'll greet the people outside first. Don't cause any trouble." Xiao Shi nodded lightly. After Princeton left, only Grandmother Dong, Yang Su, and Xue Ling were left in the house. Chu Li said, "Grandmother Dong, when will Lady Xiao Shi's injury recover?" "It was caused by a martial arts master. There's still hidden energy in her body. It's hard for it not to worsen. As for recovery..." Grandmother Dong sighed and shook her head. "I'm afraid there's no hope without at least a year and a half." "This thief," Chu Li said hatefully. Xiao Shi glared at him. Chu Li turned around and said to Grandmother Dong, "Then I'll have to trouble Grandmother Dong in the future." As he said that, he took out a banknote worth 10,000 taels and put it in the medicine box. When Grandmother Dong saw the denomination, her rosy face changed slightly. "It's too valuable." Chu Li shook his head. "Compared to Lady Xiao Shi's life, it's insignificant. I hope Grandmother Dong doesn't mind." Sigh. Grandmother Dong sighed. "I'll do my best, but there's really no way to cure the princess's illness. We can only do it bit by bit." Chu Li said, "There's no rush. It'll be fine as long as it's safe." Grandmother Dong nodded and did not explain further. After a while, Grandmother Dong let go of Xiao Shi's wrist and got up to write a prescription. Then, she left. When there were only the two of them left in the house, Yang Su and Xue Ling went out. Xiao Shi glared at him. "Did you really find that guy?" She thought that it was someone Chu Li found, but she doubted if it was a mistake. Why did he have to stab the heart? He could have just stabbed somewhere else. Chu Li smiled. "What do you think, Lady Xiao Shi? Don't tell me he really wanted to kill me?" Xiao Shi frowned. "He seems like an enemy." Chu Li pointed at himself. Xiao Shi was surprised. "Doesn't look like it." Chu Li said, "I learned the bone shrinking skill from Brother Jiang. I can change my appearance." "Do you hate me?" Xiao Shi scoffed. "Hate me for dragging you here, so you can't accompany third younger sister." Chu Li glared at her unhappily. Xiao Shi said, "Anyway, looking at your killing look, you really want to kill me." Chu Li shook his head. "If I can't fool you, you would have exposed yourself just now." Prince Anne's eyes were sharp. If Xiao Shi knew that it was him just now, her expression would be different. There was no hatred in her eyes, and Prince Anne would be suspicious. Although he did it flawlessly, it would be troublesome to be suspected by Prince, and Xiao Shi's reaction was normal. Prince Anne would not think too much, and it would save him trouble. "Look at his face, it's so satisfying." Xiao Shi scoffed. "You live next door, be more alert, if there's any movement, come quickly." When she heard that Chu Li lived next door, she felt at ease. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Xiao Shi said, "When will my injury be healed?" "That depends on His Royal Highness," Chu Li smiled. Xiao Shi smiled sweetly like a pearl. She understood what Chu Li meant. When Prince Anne died, she would be healed. The next morning, the weather was clear and the air was refreshing. The imperial residence of Prince An's chief of inner residence, Song Sansi, came to the precious light courtyard. The maids in the courtyard saw him and curtsied, but did not stop him. He strode to the front of the main hall, closed fist saluted, and said, "Princess, come in and talk." A hoarse and pleasant voice of a woman came from inside. Song Sansi lifted the curtain and entered the main hall. He lowered his head and walked a few steps to the woman sitting in the armchair, closed fist saluted, "Princess." This woman was about 30 years old. She had a snow-white oval face, a small mouth, almond eyes and willow eyebrows. She was extraordinarily beautiful. It was the concubine, Song Luiying. At this moment she was looking at Song Sansi lazily, and said carelessly, "I heard that Princess Seo was stabbed?" "Yes," Song Sansi said. "A sword pierced her heart. Thanks to the spirit-blessing pill of the Shao family, her life was saved, but her body is gone." "Congratulations, Princess." "Why are you congratulating me?" Song Luiying said carelessly. Chapter 353. "Humph, you old bastard, you're quite sinister," Song Luiying said lightly. Song Sansi laughed. "I am that kind of person." Song Luiying said, "You've seen that Chuli?" "Yes, we drank at the same table." Song Sansi shook his head. "He's a powerful person, he lives up to his name." "Oh?" Song Luiying said lightly. "No matter how powerful he is, can he be compared to you, a cunning old bastard? Princess, you can't underestimate him." Song Sansi sighed and shook his head. "According to my observation, Chuli is arrogant, but he won't look down on others. His observation skills are sharp and his reaction is fast. I'm afraid I can't compare to him." "Is he really that powerful?" Song Luiying's slender eyebrows twitched slightly. "So, you can't suppress him?" "Hee." Song Sansi laughed and shook his head. "He brought this upon himself. Originally, he was a first-grade servant. Once he entered the residence, he would immediately take over this old servant's position. This was something that could not be helped. However, Princess Seo's assassination gave us a chance." "What chance?" "I heard that Chuli has already requested His Royal Highness to stay in the courtyard next to Princess Seo's and personally guard Princess Seo in case the assassin comes again." Song Sansi laughed and shook his head. "I think he has feelings for Princess Seo. It's understandable. After all, he's still young." "I think it's rare." "It's rare to have such feelings," Song Luiying said lightly. "It's rare to see someone so loyal." Song Sansi quickly said, "I'm also loyal to the princess." "You're a cunning old bastard. When the situation isn't right, you run faster than me." Song Luiying glared at him and scoffed. "Tell me, what chance?" "Since Chuli wants to guard Princess Seo, he naturally can't be distracted," Song Sansi smiled. "He's not suitable for the position of internal chief, right?" Song Luiying nodded. "He can't leave Princess Seo's courtyard. His hands and feet are tied. He's not suitable for the position of internal chief." "That's right," Song Sansi quickly said. "So the princess can make suggestions to His Royal Highness. The position of internal chief should be left to us." "You're just greedy for power, aren't you?" Song Luiying said. Song Sansi chuckled. "This old servant is indeed reluctant. Wang Fei, with the position of internal chief steward in our hands, everyone in the residence is respectful to us. Once you hand it over, these guys will immediately change their faces and run to Xiao Wang Fei to please her." "Yes, it's human nature." Song Luiying nodded slightly. "Don't look at feelings but at power. But you want this position because you don't want to make up for the deficit, right?" "Hee." Song Sansi smiled embarrassedly. "Nothing can be hidden from Princess. 100,000 silver taels is indeed not a small sum." Song Luiying said lightly, "I think it's better for you to make up for it. Times are different now. If His Royal Highness really wants to hand over the position of the head of internal affairs to Chuli, he might use you to establish his authority." Sigh. Song Sansi sighed and shook his head helplessly. Princess also knows that my son has squandered all our money. Now, how can we take out 100,000 taels of silver? Even if we have 10,000 taels of silver, we still can't. He gritted his teeth. He scoffed. So no matter what, we can't let Chu Li take the position of the head of internal affairs. Song Luiying said lightly, looks like it's not for me but for you. Princess, you have wronged me. Song Sansi quickly said, even if Princess doesn't think for yourself, you should think for Lady Xiao. I have watched Lady Xiao grow up, and I feel closer to her than my prodigal son. I really don't want Lady Xiao to suffer. Without the position of the princess and without the position of the head of internal affairs, how can those short-sighted people in the imperial residence not roll their eyes at Lady Xiao? Don't treat Lady Xiao coldly? Song Luiying frowned and thought about it. She nodded lightly. Song Sansi's words struck a chord in her heart. Even if she didn't think for herself, she had to think for Qing'er. Yes, I will mention this to His Royal Highness. But His Royal Highness hates it when women interfere in these matters. Song Luiying shook her head and said, still the same words, quickly make up for the deficit so that Chu Li doesn't get hold of it. I will think of a way, Song Sansi quickly nodded. Song Luiying waved her hand, go, I want to visit there today and meet this Chu Li. Do you want me to come along? What are you going to do? Song Luiying waved her hand and said, go do what you need to do, don't bother me. Yes. I will take my leave. Song Sansi closed fist saluted and bowed, then left. He stopped at the entrance of the precious light courtyard, his face gloomy. Cutting off one's wealth was like killing one's parent. The brat with the surname Chu was blocking his path to wealth. He had to think of a way to get rid of him completely. Chu Li sat at the stone table in Xiao Shi's courtyard, holding a book in his hand, and beside him was a plum tree. The imperial residence had a rich collection of books. As a rank 1 scribe, although he did not have a position yet, the scribes and protectors of the imperial residence had already started to curry favor with him. With just a word, the scribe in charge of the collection would immediately send a pile of books over. Xiao Shi was lying on the bed recuperating, while Yang Su and Xue Ling waited on her side, chatting with her. Chu Li sat alone in front of the stone table, flipping through the books with great interest. This book was a record of spirit beasts. It was considered an anecdote. He found the part about the spirit cranes and felt that it was not all nonsense. The spirit cranes were indeed like what was written in the book. They laid 2 eggs in a nest. The male and female cranes would take turns to guard the nest, never leaving for even a moment. Once other spirit beasts came near, they would not be courteous. As for the others, the spirit cranes were indifferent. They were not hostile towards all living things. They liked to eat grass roots, mostly the roots of exotic plants. Their speed was at the limit of the naked eye. Human eyes could not catch up with their shadows. At this moment, a maid announced from outside, Princess Song has arrived. Chu Li stood up and put down the book. He closed fist saluted Song Luiying, who was walking over gracefully, and the graceful young girl beside Song Luiying. Chu Li greets the princess. Chief Chu, you're welcome. Song Luiying was dressed up to the nines. She was elegant and graceful, with a graceful bearing. She looked at Chu Li carefully. The young girl beside her was graceful and exquisite. She had a hibiscus face and bright eyes. Between her gaze, there was a hint of indifference and indifference. Chu Li looked at her carefully. This young girl should be Princess Song's daughter, Ling Qing. She seemed to be impatient with everything. She was not as indifferent as Xiao Qi, but she hated everything. How is Princess Xiao's injury? Song Luiying said lightly. Chu Li's expression was heavy. He shook his head and said, the assassin was indeed arrogant and vicious. He stabbed Lady Xiao's heart. If it wasn't for the spirit blessing pill, Lady Xiao would have been dead. The imperial physician has already come and said that there is no other way. She can only recuperate slowly. She will probably recover in a year and a half. So heavy? Song Luiying was shocked. She was really surprised. She did not expect Xiao Shi's injury to be so troublesome. She needed to recuperate for a year and a half. She thought that after taking the spirit blessing pill, she would recover in a few days. Not only was she unhappy, but she also felt a chill in her heart. Princess Xiao had the spirit blessing pill, but she did not. If the assassin stabbed her, she would have been dead by now. Only Qing Heir would be left alone in this world. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Lady Xiao was lucky to be able to keep her life. Chief Chu, Lady Xiao invited Princess Song into the house to talk. Yang Su walked out and said softly. Chu Li extended his hand and invited Song Luiying. Chapter 354. Chu Li did not follow them in. He picked up his book again and sat by the stone table, quietly reading under the plum tree. The smell of medicine lingered in the house. Xiao Shi was leaning against a high pillow, half sitting and half lying down. She lazily sized up Song Luiying and her daughter, who entered the house. Song Luiying curtsied and smiled sweetly. "Greetings, Sister Xiao." Ling Qing curtsied and remained silent. She only looked at her curiously, wanting to know how beautiful the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty was. Xiao Shi smiled gently. "Sister Song, come and sit." She had never met Song Luiying before, but the way she spoke was as if they were old friends. She sighed. "I should have gone over to see Sister Song, but I have to trouble Sister Song to come and see me personally. I wouldn't dare." Song Luiying smiled. "Sister Xiao is the princess consort. Her status is noble and above us. How can she be arrogant? If His Royal Highness were to find out, he would definitely scold her." Xiao Shi smiled and said, "I've long heard that the Royal Highness is a strict housekeeper, but there's no need to be strict with us sisters, is there?" Song Luiying said with a smile, "Sister Xiao, you still don't understand His Royal Highness. He only pays attention to the matters of the imperial court and never pays attention to these trivial matters at home. But if you disturb him because of these trivial matters, he will get angry. That's what a man should do." Xiao Shi smiled sweetly and said, "From now on, I'll have to trouble Sister Song with everything in this residence. My body isn't good enough, even if I wanted to help, I'm powerless. Commander Zheng and the others are too useless." Song Luiying's face tightened and she said hatefully, "There were so many experts and they actually let them barge and openly and seriously injure Sister Xiao. It is indeed a dereliction of duty. That person's martial arts was too strong." Xiao Shi shook her head lightly and sighed. The House of High Dukes had offended too many people from the martial arts world. It was expected that they would end up like this. However, for the sake of the imperial court stability, the House of High Dukes had no choice but to continue suppressing these people from the martial arts world and provoking assassinations again and again. Sigh. Song Luiying sighed. "It's been hard on Sister Xiao. As soon as I enter the mansion, I have to lie on the bed, without any freedom." Xiao Shi smiled. "Actually, it's nothing much. I've been living like this since I was young, so I'm used to it. I was fine a while ago, but now I'm back. It's as if I'm destined to be bedridden." "You must not say that," Song Luiying advised. "Sister Zhao's good days are yet to come. His Royal Highness will punish the murderer severely." "I would rather your Highness not provoke that person," Xiao Shi shook her head and said, "or else. The one in danger isn't me, it's His Highness, and even my two sisters. Such an expert is rarely seen in this world. If we can avoid provoking him, we should." "This guy is too dangerous," Song Luiying frowned. "The imperial residence is not safe either, it's really worrying." When she thought of that guy trying to assassinate her, she couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Xiao Shi smiled and said, "But with Chu Li here, we don't have to be afraid of that guy coming again." Song Luiying's slender brows twitched. "Chief Chu is so capable that he can surpass Commander Zheng?" Xiao Shi smiled. "His Qing Gong is unparalleled. Even if I can't beat them, I can always run away." Unparalleled Qing Gong. Song Luiying understood what she meant. It wasn't that he could beat that guy, but that he could escape from his hands. This was indeed a method. Chief Chu has a good Qing Gong, its sister's good fortune. Song Luiying smiled. It's a pity that Chuli was at the banquet yesterday. If not, Sister Xiao wouldn't have suffered such a serious injury. It can't be helped. Xiao Shi sighed. He didn't want to go to the banquet because he was worried about the safety of the imperial residence. He was chased away by me. Although he's rank 1, he can't look down on his colleagues because of that. I wonder what position His Royal Highness will arrange for Chief Chu, Song Luiying said, rank 1. In the imperial residence, he's just below His Royal Highness. Normal positions can't accommodate him. That depends on His Royal Highness, Xiao Shi said lightly. As inner concubines, it's not appropriate for us to say much. That's right, Song Luiying smiled. She was secretly shocked. As expected of someone from the House of High Dukes, she was not an ordinary person. As they were talking, they heard movement outside. Chu Li put down the scroll, stood up and closed fist saluted. A petite and cute young lady with a sweet and cute appearance walked in. Beside her was a 14 or 15-year-old girl. Pure and beautiful, expressionless. The sweet lady wore a yellow shirt, her face was radiant. When she entered the courtyard and saw Chu Li, she frowned. Who are you? Chu Li closed fist saluted. Chu Li greets Princess Shui. You're Chu Li? Xuanning glanced at him and nodded. I've heard of you. But you're a man, how can you stay here? Chu Li said, the imperial residence is not stable now. Lady Xiao can't take any more trouble. I can only guard here. You're loyal. Xuanning scoffed. But you're a man after all. You should avoid arousing suspicion, lest you make His Royal Highness unhappy. Yes, thank you for your guidance, Princess Shui. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Xuanning scoffed. If it weren't for your loyalty, I wouldn't have said anything. Let's go, Qiu Er. She pulled Ling Qiu, who was curiously looking at Chu Li, and entered the house. Once she entered the house, she waved at Yang Su and Shui Ling, who bowed. She came closer and smiled. Yo, Sister Song is here too. Greetings, Sister Xiao. She curtsied at Xiao Shi and bowed at Song Luiying. Her arrogance was obvious. Ling Qiu, who was beside her, curtsied as well. She bowed to Xiao Shi, Song Luiying, and Ling Qing. Xiao Shi smiled gently. Thank you for coming personally, Sister Shui. Sister Xiao, don't be so courteous. We'll be a family from now on. Did you really stab me in the heart? Xuanning squeezed in front of Song Luiying and got closer to the bed. She said with concern, this damn guy, he's so cruel. He could even stab a beauty like you. He's not a man. Xiao Shi smiled. I almost lost my life. Heaven helps the worthy. Xuanning smiled. Sister Xiao Shi, you've gone through so many hardships to get to this stage. How can you just die like that? One who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune later on. Your good fortune is coming soon. Xiao Shi smiled. My body is completely ruined. What good fortune do I have? His Royal Highness will take extra pity on you. Xuanning pursed her lips and smiled. How can it not be a good fortune to be doted on? Xiao Shi shook her head and smiled. You all have children by your side. I'll be alone for the rest of my life. When I'm old, I can only spend the rest of my life with a Buddhist scripture and a lamp. She said it pitifully. The two girls felt sad. They knew that this was the unavoidable truth. A man's love cannot last long. Once he gets old and has no children by his side, he'll be like a rootless duckweed. He'll be swept to a corner and no one will care for him. Xuanning said, Sister Xiao Shi, you still have Chu Li. He's rank 1. He's the only one in the imperial residence. His Royal Highness must be having a headache about how to settle him down. Sister Song, don't you think so? Song Luiying said lightly. Can we women talk too much about this kind of thing? Xuanning smiled. From what I see, That old man Song Sansi should give up his position. He's gotten so many benefits from being the chief of the imperial residence. He should be satisfied. Song Luing said, "Everything is up to His Royal Highness." Chapter 355. Song Luing's expression did not change, but her heart sank. She knew that Song Sansi had embezzled quite a lot of silvers, no less than 100,000 taels, but she did not expect him to be so daring to do such a thing. Xuaningyu shook her head and sighed. For those who paid less, he would assign the dirty and tiring jobs to them. For those who paid more, they would be given easier jobs. This internal chief supervisor is really interesting. He's so impressive. He's even more impressive than the Royal Highness. I don't believe that Li Gui doesn't have a share, Song Luing said lightly. Xuaningyu said, how would Li Gui dare to not want it? If he dared to say anything, he would have been harmed by Song Sansi. Sister Shui, don't talk nonsense. Song Luing frowned. No matter how much of a bastard Song Sansi is, he wouldn't dare to harm anyone. Ha ha. Xuaningyu giggled. She shook her head and said, of course Song Sansi will look down in front of you like an old dog, but in front of others, he's a different person, don't be fooled by him. Song Luing frowned. The Royal Highness is well aware of what Song Sansi did. How could he hide it from the Royal Highness? It's just that the Royal Highness is kind and did not point it out, seeing that he is still loyal, he did not punish him. If he really crossed the line, the Royal Highness would not hesitate to make a move. This old man also understands this. He has always been grateful, trembling with fear. He would never dare to act recklessly. That might not be the case, Xuaningyu scoffed. How can we guess the Royal Highness's thoughts? I think if Song Sansi knows what's good for him, he would obediently submit a letter and resign from his position as chief. If he were to cling to power and position and make things difficult for the Royal Highness, that would not be good. Don't you think so, Sister Song? She stared at Song Luing with a faint smile, a sarcastic smile hanging on the corner of her mouth. Even with such an expression, she still looked sweet and charming. Chu Li shook his head as he listened from outside. Xiao Shi, however, was enjoying it. She felt that it was very interesting, much more interesting than staring blankly. She coughed lightly and smiled sweetly. Sisters, in my opinion, forget it. Chu Li has to keep watch outside. Where would he find the time to do other things? Even if he became the chief, it would still be an empty position. Can't manage things? That's different. Xuaningyu smiled and said, Sister Xiao, you're also from the house of High Dukes, a wealthy aristocrat. Naturally, you know the temperament of these servants. These servants don't dare to be negligent. If they don't have this position, they will suffer. Song Luing said lightly, Li Gui is only the deputy chief. Could it be that Sister Shui has been looked down upon? Which servant dares to mess around? Li Gui is a deputy chief after all, so compared to you, I'm still far behind. If there's anything good in the residence, it's always the precious light courtyard. My Xuanji courtyard is always ranked behind, Xuaningyu said. Maybe it's because I entered the residence 2 years earlier than you. Song Luing said, after all, people still remember old friendships. Sister Song, do you believe your own words? Xuaningyu scoffed. Xiao Shi nodded thoughtfully. Sister Shui's words make sense. Yes, I need a position. Even if I don't do anything, just let my subordinates do it. Song Luing's expression changed slightly. Xuaningyu scoffed. Chu Li is rank 1. The highest position in the residence is the inner residence chief. There's no higher position. Song Luing pondered for a while and said slowly, this matter, we don't have the final say. As for how to arrange Chu Li, I think His Royal Highness has his own decision. It's better for us women to speak less. What do you say, Sister Shui? Sister Song's words are right. Xuaningyu smiled. But as women, of course, we have to share His Royal Highness's worries. Even if it's a mistake, it's still better than Song Sansi, who is obsessed with power and position. Whether His Royal Highness agrees or not is another matter. Whether Song Sansi will submit a letter to resign is another matter. What do you say, Sister Song? Seo Shi smiled as she watched the two of them fight openly and covertly. She coughed softly and said, "It's better to stay put than to take action. Let His Royal Highness make the arrangements. I believe His Royal Highness will not mistreat Chu Li." That's right, that's right." Song Luiying quickly nodded and smiled. "I like to make pastries. When I get back, I'll make some for Sister Seo to try. I just don't know if she's on a diet now." Seo Shi sighed. "She's on a medication right now. She needs to be on a diet." She sighed to herself that the show was about to end. It was really not satisfying. She always had the mentality of being able to leave at any time. She was detached and did not really treat herself as a member of the imperial residence. That was why she could look down from above. She felt that the two women's fight was interesting. It was like watching a good show. Xuaningyu smiled, lying on the bed and not being able to move. "Just thinking about it makes me suffer. I can't stand it for even a day." Song Luiying nodded lightly. "Sister Xue is born in a family of generals. You've been practicing with swords and spears since young. Naturally, you can't stay idle. Practicing with swords and spears can have a good body. Studying all day long won't do. You'll damage your body. That's not good." Xuaningyu smiled. Song Luiying said, "It's better for girls to be quiet. His Royal Highness usually sits in the study room all day long. It's too quiet." Xuaningyu smiled sweetly. "That's why he likes to go to my place. Sister Song, think about it. His Royal Highness is usually bored. Now that he's met with someone as dull as you, how can he not feel bored?" Song Luiying clenched her jade-like hands in her sleeve. She glared at Xuaningyu. At this moment, someone shouted from outside, "There's an assassin! Catch the assassin!" The three women's faces changed slightly. Xueling took 2 steps to the bed and blocked in front of Seo Shi. Yang Su retreated and shrunk to the corner of the wall. As they had rehearsed beforehand, the two of them acted calmly and swiftly. Song Luiying and Xuaningyu's faces changed slightly. Xuaningyu was petite and cute. She was sweet and cute, but she was bold. She scoffed, "More assassins? Is the imperial residence a place where they can come and go as they please?" She took a step and was about to walk out. Chu Li's voice was heard. "Princess Xue, I'll do it." Xuaningyu strode to the door. She saw Chu Li in a white robe. He stood quietly at the entrance of the courtyard. He did not look nervous at all. "Chu Li, you better bring Sister Seo Shi away first. They might be here to look for her." Chu Li closed fist saluted at her and shook his head. "It's too late." After saying this, the 3 masked men in gray fluttered down from the top of the wall. They flew toward Xuaningyu with their backs facing Chu Li. Chu Li threw out 3 punches lightly. The 3 masked men in gray fluttered and moved horizontally. Bang! 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 3 muffled sounds came from the wall. The window exploded. Xueling waved her palms and blocked the splinters that flew into the house. Chu Li had already appeared in front of the 3 masked men in gray. The long sword on his waist turned into a dark light. In an instant it was aimed at the throats of the 3 men. The 3 of them exclaimed in surprise and quickly dodged. They did not expect Chu Li's sword to be so fast. Chu Li's dark sword light enveloped the 3 of them in an instant. The 3 of them did not have time to counterattack. They could only keep dodging. They were afraid that if they hesitated, the tip of the sword would pierce through their throat. In the blink of an eye, Chu Li had stabbed more than 100 times. The sword force was getting fiercer and fiercer. The 3 of them were surrounded by the sword light. The 3 of them were like flies in a spider's web. They were getting weaker and weaker. They were about to be stabbed at any time. Xuaningyu was dumbfounded. "Chi!" A light whistle was heard. One of the masked men in gray was stabbed in the throat. However, He shot out a flying knife before he died. The purple gold light on Chu Li's body flickered and disappeared. The flying knife was stabbed into his right chest. Chapter 356. Chu Li acted as if he was not injured at all. His sword was still as sharp as ever. Instead, because one of them had died and there were only two of them left, the two of them felt even more pressured. They had almost no strength to resist and were forced to retreat step by step. Chu Li's expression was calm and unhurried. The modesty sword's body could not be seen. It turned into a layer of dark mist and shrouded the two of them. Their faces were flushed red, and their eyes were bloodshot. They were anxious and furious, but there was nothing they could do. Chu Li's modesty sword was like maggots attached to their bones, pressuring them so much that they could not breathe. They wanted to use their secret skills to activate their potential, but they could not do so. If they really tried to activate their secret skills, they would have been killed by the sword before they could even activate it. Swoosh! With a light whistle, a ray of silver light shot towards Chu Li from the wall. Chu Li's body once again flashed with a purplish-golden brilliance. He did not block the modesty sword in his hand, allowing the flying dagger to pierce his back. If he parried the flying dagger, it would give the other two a chance to catch their breath. Once they activated their secret techniques, it would be troublesome. Right now, he had to suppress his swordsmanship and martial arts. If he was too outstanding, he would inevitably arouse suspicion. He never looked down on other people's intelligence. It was not a problem for him to display his outstanding light body technique. If he were to display his outstanding swordsmanship as well, Prince An might even suspect that he was the one who assassinated Xiao. Once he had this suspicion, King An might turn against him. Chu Li was waiting for King An's death. If he were to fall out with him before he died, he would be forced to leave the imperial residence of King An. If King An died during this period, then everything would be in vain, and the imperial residence of King An would no longer have anything to do with him. A masked man in gray stood on the wall. Seeing how tough Chu Li was, he shot another lancet at Xuaningyu. Xuaningyu's expression changed slightly. She crouched down to avoid it. However, the lancet was too fast. Before she could even squat down, the flying knife was already in front of her and was about to hit her forehead. She could only watch helplessly as the knife was about to hit her head. Ding! A black sword blocked in front of her forehead, deflecting the flying dagger. Chu Li stood in front of her. He said in a deep voice, "Princess Shui, please forgive me." As he spoke, he grabbed her wrist with his left hand and appeared in the room in a flash. The three gray-robed men finally heaved a sigh of relief. Now that they had the chance to activate their secret skills, their bodies instantly expanded and their martial arts skills increased. Like three wisps of smoke, they dashed toward the window and faced Chu Li's sword. Bang, 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 bang! The three masked men in gray swung their fists like hammers. The power of the fists soared through the air, colliding with the modesty sword incessantly, giving off the sound of metal colliding. Xuaningyu shouted delicately, "Where the hell did everyone go?" Chu Li's chest and back were pierced by flying daggers, but his expression did not change as he said, "There should be other accomplices who are holding Commander Jing and the others back." He used his modesty sword to seal the window so that the three of them could not take another step forward. They madly attacked for a dozen or so times, but seeing that there was no hope of entering, they once again split into two. Two of them madly attacked here, while the other entered through the door of the hall. He lifted the curtain and rushed in, his eyes revealing a sinister smile. Chu Li was entangled by the two of them and could not spare any attention. He could only watch helplessly as he slowly approached the women. Song Luiying was so scared that her legs turned to jelly and she almost fell to the ground. Although Xuaningyu's heart was thumping hard, she still stared at the masked man in gray. "Who are you? How dare you?" He. The masked man in gray approached step by step, but his gaze swept over Chu Li from time to time. He threatened like this. He did not believe that the guy's heart would not be disturbed. Once his heart was disturbed, then the sword light would disperse, and he would definitely be killed. But as he glanced, his gaze was gradually attracted by Xiao Shi and the other women. Chu Li's left hand flung out a silver light. This flying dagger's timing was just right. When the masked man in gray stepped into the bedroom, his entire body tensed up. He was on his highest alert, afraid that he would suddenly attack or have some other tricks up his sleeves. Then he saw Chu Li being entangled by his own companions, and watched as he slowly approached the women, but was powerless. The masked man in gray's vigilance then relaxed. Looking at Song Luiying, Xuaningyu, Xiao Shi and the other beauties in the house, he unconsciously became distracted. Just as he was distracted, Chu Li's flying dagger arrived. The sharp senses of a grandmaster alerted him, and just as he was about to dodge, the distance was too close, and the flying dagger was too fast. There was no way to dodge. The flying dagger pierced through his throat, grazed Ling Qing's ear, and shot into the wall. Ling Qing was shocked, and her face instantly turned pale. If it was just an inch off, she would be dead. Ugh! The masked man in gray clutched his throat, and stared at Chu Li unwillingly. With a bang, he fell to the ground. Ah! The two masked men in gray outside the window roared and rushed in. They entered the room through the window, and their fists rushed forward. Chu Li's modesty sword suddenly sped up, and instantly pierced one of the men's throat. This man stared with his eyes wide open, and reached out to grab the modesty sword. He wanted to use his own death to slow down Chu Li's movements, and create an opportunity for his companions. Chu Li let go of the modesty sword, and faced the approaching fist force. He did not dodge at all. With a light punch, the masked man in gray flew out of the window. Bang! The purplish-golden light on his body flashed, and he slid backward by a foot, almost hitting Song Luiying. Song Luiying was so scared that she fell onto the bed, and was held by Xueling, so that she would not fall on Xiao Shi. Chu Li leaped out and landed in the courtyard. The masked man in gray hit Chu Li, and was also hit by Chu Li's fist force. His body was not as strong as Chu Li's, and even if he activated his secret skill, he still vomited blood after taking the punch. Chu Li threw another punch in midair, and the masked man in gray countered with his own fist force. The fists collided, and both of their clothes fluttered, as if they were standing in a storm. "Master, take this!" Xueling pulled out the modesty sword from the throat of the corpse, and threw it out. As if Chu Li had eyes on his back, he floated and caught the long sword. He turned it in midair, and once again shot towards the masked man in gray. The dark shadow of the sword once again enveloped him. Ding 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 ding! In the sound of metal clashing, the masked man in gray waved his fists, and kept retreating. His fists seemed to be wrapped in a layer of black iron, and there was a faint glow of metal. It was actually able to block the modesty sword. Chu Li observed the route of his inner energy flow, and wanted to see what kind of martial art it was. The masked man in gray slowly retreated, and was already at the entrance of the courtyard. Chu Li's sword suddenly flashed, and its speed suddenly increased. The sword pierced the throat of the masked man in gray. He unwillingly clutched his throat and fell to the ground. Chu Li sheathed his sword and floated up to the roof, and looked down at the surroundings. Chief Chu, Zheng Lide and Meng Ji shot over like arrows that left the bow. Chu Li glanced at them, shook his head, and ignored them. He floated down from the roof, and entered the house. Song Luiying and Xuaningyu let out a long sigh of relief, but their faces were still pale. Xiao Shi's expression was calm, and she did not look frightened at all. Chu Li had God's limbs, and if he really could not win, he could leave in an instant. So she was not anxious at all, and was not worried at all. She knew that Chu Li was purposely acting for others to see, and she only needed to cooperate. After Chu Li entered the house, he closed-fist saluted, "My lady, you must be frightened." Xiao said, "You can leave first." Song Luiying hurriedly said, "Chief Chu, hurry up and treat your injury, is it serious?" Her bad feeling towards Chu Li was now gone. It did not matter if she was fighting for power, if it was not for him today, she might have lost her life. Chu Li smiled, "It's no big deal, just a small injury." "This is not a small injury, hurry up and treat it." Song Luiying hurriedly waved her hand, and looked at the 2 flying knives that were stuck in his body. She quickly looked away, and did not dare to look. Xuaningyu, on the other hand, stared at the 2 flying knives excitedly. "There's no poison on the knives, right?" Chu Li shook his head. "There's no poison. It's better to be careful." Xuaningyu said, "I have a golden wound ointment that has been passed down in my family. It's the best, I'll get someone to send it over later." Chapter 357. P.S. Sorry, it's too late. I was tricked by the computer and my saved manuscript disappeared. It's been a while and I still haven't recovered. I'll ask an expert later. When Zheng Lide and Meng Ji entered the courtyard, they looked awkward and felt that their faces were burning. Looking at the people lying on the ground, then at the broken window, and then at the people in the room through the window, they secretly groaned. The 3 princesses were all here. If the assassin really succeeded, the 2 of them wouldn't need to beg for forgiveness. They could just commit suicide to avoid implicating their families. When Xuaningyu saw them, she lifted the hem of her dress and walked to the stairs of the main hall. She looked down at the 2 of them and sneered, "Yo, Commander Zheng, Commander Meng, you're still alive." Zheng Lide stepped forward, cupped his fists and bowed. He said sincerely, "Greetings, Princess Xiao, Princess Song, and Princess Xue. We have failed in our duties this time. I didn't expect that this group of people would split into several groups and make us exhausted. I didn't expect them to break into Princess Xiao's courtyard." "Didn't think of it?" Xuaningyu sneered. "If you can't even think of this, what's the use of your head? You can't even see through a small trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain? Commander, you're really capable." "Yes, I have failed in my duty." Zheng Lide quickly nodded. Meng Ji lowered his head and said nothing. He felt suffocated and helpless. He wanted nothing more than to slice those assassins into pieces. Xuaningyu sneered. "This time, if it wasn't for Chu Li guarding here and resisting with all his might, the 3 of us would have been killed by them. Oh, Commander Zheng, are you trying to help His Royal Highness by killing us all so that you can marry young and beautiful women into the imperial residence?" "Princess Xue, please calm down," Zheng Lide hurriedly called out. He groaned inwardly. It was his bad luck to have met Princess Xue. She dared to say anything. She looked sweet and charming, but she was unusually shrewish. She could scold people until they wanted to commit suicide. Xuaningyu placed her hands on her hips and sneered. "Why would I be angry? I'm just too surprised, it's too unimaginable. The protectors in our residence are too powerful. The assassins could easily kill their way in. This time, they wanted to kill us, and next time, they might want to kill Wangye. Do you want your highness to personally kill them?" Zheng Lide sighed helplessly. Xuaningyu scoffed, "Commander Zheng, Commander Meng, both of you are just a bunch of idlers. Even saying idlers is a compliment, you're both more of a hindrance than a help. They occupy their positions but don't do anything, yet they still think they're so great. Their tails are higher than the house. In the end, people come and go as they please. What has the imperial residence of King and become?" What has it become? Yes, yes. Zheng Lide nodded in shame. He glanced at Chu Li from the corner of his eye. Seeing that Chu Li's chest and back were pierced by flying daggers, it seemed that he had suffered serious injuries. However, if it were not for his killing spree, causing the public house to lose 10 grandmasters, they would not be in such a bad state. However, these words could not be said at this time. Right now, Chu Li was a meritorious minister, and he was a sinner. If he said this, Even if he did not die, he would be skinned alive. The sound of footsteps could be heard as King An strode over. His face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip water. As soon as he entered the courtyard, everyone bowed to him. King An waved his hand. Without even looking at Jing Lide and Meng Ji, he said to Xuaningyu, "Why are you two here?" "Your Royal Highness, we came to visit Sister Xiaoshi, but we were blocked by assassins. If it weren't for Chu Li who fought to the death, we would all be dead." Xuaningyu said snappily, "I want to ask your Royal Highness, what's wrong with the protectors in the public house?" King An frowned and said, "It's inevitable that we don't have enough manpower. I will find more people. All of you go back. Don't disturb Xiaoshi's recuperation." If the assassins succeeded this time, I think Sister Xiaoshi doesn't need to recuperate anymore. The three of us sisters will accompany each other on the road to hell. Xuaningyu said snappily, she was scared to death. Song Luiying also came out of the house. She curtsied and showed a wronged expression. King An frowned even tighter. He waved his hand impatiently. "All right, all of you go back. Chiu Qing are you all right?" When he asked his two daughters, his tone suddenly became gentler. His gaze also softened. The two girls shook their heads. "Father, the protectors in the public house should be changed. They are all too comfortable," Leng Qing said indifferently. She glanced at Jing Lide and Meng Ji. "If this goes on, I won't even dare to sleep." Ling Qiu quickly nodded her head. King An said snappily, "What do you know? Go back now." He looked at Chu Li. "Chu Li, you did well. How are your injuries?" Chu Li closed fist saluted. "Thank you for your concern, Your Royal Highness. It's nothing serious. It's just a flesh wound." Then you continue to guard this side." King An nodded and glanced at Jing Lide and Meng Ji. The two of them lowered their heads even more. King An scoffed. He ignored the two of them and entered the house. He saw that Xiaoshi's expression was indifferent. She did not look frightened at all. He said a few comforting words. He felt bored and hurried out. He knew that Jing Lide and Meng Ji could not be blamed for this. The cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. There were not enough grandmasters in the public house. They could not produce any grandmasters even if they had 3 heads and 6 arms. They had to take it slow. Chu Li was to be blamed for this. It was Chu Li who broke the foundation of the public house and made the imperial residence of King An a joke. When he thought of this, he glanced at Chu Li coldly as he walked out. His intention to kill was thick. Chu Li felt it but pretended not to. He closed fist saluted and sent King An off. Everyone quickly left. The 3 corpses were taken away and cleaned up. Only Chu Li and Xiaoshi were left in the house. Yang Su and Xueling were also in the courtyard. Xiaoshi looked at him. "Are your injuries all right?" Chu Li smiled. "I'm all right." "What happened?" Xiaoshi looked at him. "Did you arrange it again?" Chu Li laughed. "It's not this time. It seems like everyone is looking for an opportunity to make a name for themselves." He understood these people's thoughts. First, they had a grudge against the public house. Second, if they were to break into the imperial residence of King An and successfully assassinate him, they would immediately be famous. These factions or forces wanted this. They were not afraid of going against the imperial court. They were afraid of being unknown. This was a world where martial arts were flourishing. Practicing martial arts was the norm. People did not fear the imperial court. Otherwise, the public house would not need to suppress them. Xiaoshi said, "Then hurry up and treat your injuries." As they were talking, a maid walked into the courtyard with a jade porcelain in her hand. She passed it to Xueling. "This is the golden wound ointment from the princess." Xueling took it and thanked her. She opened it and sniffed it. Then, she entered the house and passed it to Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and took it. Xiaoshi said, "Princess Xue is from a family of generals. The golden wound ointment must have its unique features. Go and apply the ointment." "All right." Chu Li closed fist saluted. He flipped over the wall and went to his courtyard on the west side. Xue Ling followed him. She pulled out the knife and applied the ointment. The two flying knives were tightly clamped by his muscles. It looked like they were pierced deep and stable. When they were pulled out, only a little blood flowed out. In fact, it was only a shallow cut. "Master, why are you showing weakness?" Xue Ling asked. She could faintly see that Chu Li was hiding his cultivation level. If he wanted to take down those three, he would have done so long ago. He did not need to waste so much effort. Chu Li shook his head. "I can't be too famous. Isn't it good to be in the limelight and teach them a lesson?" Xue Ling did not understand. Chu Li smiled and said, "I've already taken them down a notch. What do you think of Princess Xue and Princess Song?" Now that he had killed 10 grandmasters in one go, everyone in the imperial residence would know how powerful he was. There was no need for him to show off anymore, otherwise, it would only bring more harm than good. Xue Ling shook her head. "I've just met them, so I don't really understand them. Princess Xue seems to be more outspoken. Princess Song, on the other hand, is a little soft." Chu Li laughed. Xue Ling quickly said, "Master, am I wrong?" Chu Li said, "They're soft-hearted. Don't underestimate them." "Is she really that powerful?" Xue Ling asked curiously. "I've seen them fighting against each other. Isn't she just a chief?" Chu Li shook his head and said, "The chief of the imperial residence is different. He has more authority than the House of High Dukes. You'll know in the future." "Then, young master, do you want to do it?" "Of course I do. Will King An agree to it?" "I'm afraid he's not willing. He'll find a way to make me a mere figurehead." "What should we do, young master?" "We can only react accordingly and take it one step at a time." Chu Li said, "There's no rush. We're already in the imperial residence. There's still a long way to go." Chapter 358. Chu Li bandaged his wound and returned to Xiao Shi's courtyard to keep watch. Xue followed him and brewed a cup of tea for him. She smiled. "Master, you should go back and rest today. There won't be any more assassins, right?" Chu Li smiled. "That might not be the case. The assassins just arrived. The public house is at its most tense. Security is tight. Why would anyone come?" Xue shook her head and smiled. "There won't be such a stupid assassin." "Young lady, that's interesting. I'm that stupid?" A light laugh rang. The voice was soft and sweet, with a hint of crispness. It was strange and moving. Xue's expression changed immediately. She looked around. A white shadow floated into the courtyard like a snow-white feather. After she landed, she took a step forward lightly. It was as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. She crossed 10 meters and stood in front of Chu Li. A white robe covered her graceful figure. A white veil covered her face. Only a pair of clear eyes could be seen. Her eyes were like the autumn waters. It was captivating. "What are you doing, Lady Lu?" Chu Li put down his teacup and looked at her quietly. Lu Yurong said, "I like to join in the fun." 2 groups of assassins came to kill Second Lady Xiao. "Is she that hateful?" "Oh, it's all because of the first beauty of the Great Ji Dynasty, right? To be able to kill the first beauty of the Great Ji Dynasty, you'll be famous." Chu Li said, "Lady Lu also wants to kill Second Lady Xiao Shi? What do you think?" Lu Yurong's eyes were cold. She scoffed, "Our public houses are enemies. Of course, I want to kill her." Chu Li shook his head. "Lady Lu, why are you here?" "To kill Second Lady Xiao Shi." Lu Yurong said, "Killing her is a good thing." She did not wait for Chu Li to reply. She flew into the bedroom. Chu Li appeared in front of her in a flash. He pressed his palm forward. The palm energy was turbulent. "I've wanted to fight with you for a long time." Lu Yurong scoffed. "Let's see what you're capable of." Lu Yurong had always wanted to find out the truth about Chu Li, but because Chu Li's light body technique was too strong and slippery, it was hard for her to really fight him. This time, he had to protect Xiao, so he could fight to his heart's content. She wasn't afraid that he would run away. Bam, 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 bam. Lu Yurong's snow-white and flawless hands, which looked like they were carved out of white jade, struck out lightly, as if she was dancing, graceful and moving. However, the palm force he sent out was as turbulent as the waves. Their white robes fluttered as they collided with Chu Li's palm energy. Xue Ling stepped back involuntarily, as if she was being pushed by a huge wave. As Chu Li waved his palm, he was shocked. Lu Yurong's palm strength was strange and vigorous. If not for the life and death scripture, he was definitely not a match for him. The inner energy of the Empyrean fairy technique was extremely pure. It was completely different from ordinary inner energy, as if it was a completely different power that could not be assimilated. Fortunately, he had the heavenly demonic energy, which could not be dispelled by inner energy. The heavenly demonic energy leaped out and swallowed the inner energy of the Empyrean fairy power in one gulp, strengthening itself. As the two of them fought, the inner force of the Empyrean fairy power kept surging in, and the heavenly demonic chi kept growing. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of their palms colliding was getting louder and louder. Like the beating of a military drum, half of the prince's mansion could hear it. When Zheng Lide and Meng Ji heard the sound, they quickly ran over and saw the two of them fighting in the field. Lu Yurong. Zheng Lide's eyes widened as he shouted. Lu Yurong ignored him and started to fight. She had always relied on the Empyrean fairy power to win. Even if her cultivation level was not as high, she still had the upper hand because of the Empyrean fairy power. Moreover, her cultivation level was so high that it was better than those grandmasters who were almost 100 years old. However, she did not expect that she could not defeat Chu Li. Chu Li's palm energy was pure. His inner energy seemed to be endless. What made her even angrier was that he was not afraid of the inner energy of the Empyrean fairy power. After fighting for almost 50 palms, his inner energy did not seem to slow down at all. Chu Li, you do have some skills, Lu Yurong sneered. Let's stop here for today. I'll spar with you another day. Where are you going? Zheng Lide shouted in a deep voice. Lu Yurong, this is not the Rin public house. You can't just come and go as you please. After he said that, he swung his fist and rushed forward. Meng Ji did not say a word and rushed forward. Lu Yurong spun lightly. A white shadow flashed and appeared behind the two of them. Her jade-like hands lightly patted. The two of them were hit in the back and flew into the air with blood spurting out. Princeton appeared like a wisp of smoke and caught the two of them in the air. He slowly put them down and went to Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong, how dare you? Lu Yurong faintly glanced at him. Her eyes were as cold as ice. She sneered. Your Highness, you talk big. Why, has your Highness's injury recovered? Prince An's face darkened and scoffed. It's just a small injury, it's not worth mentioning. Stubborn. If you want to recover, come and beg me. Lu Yurong lightly floated up and laughed in the air. Chu Li, we'll talk about this later. I'll take my leave now. Chu Li scoffed. Prince An's gloomy gaze looked over. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Your Highness should know what kind of person Lu Yurong is. Prince An retracted his gaze. He naturally understood Lu Yurong's cunning. Lu Yurong's words obviously meant that she had bad intentions. She wanted to use him to get rid of Chu Li. You guys go. Prince An waved his hand and signaled Zheng Lide and Meng Ji to leave. The two grandmasters who stood at the entrance of the courtyard also left. Only Chu Li and Prince An were left in the courtyard. Xue Ling also returned to the house. Chu Li said, Your Highness, do you have any orders? It's about your position. Prince An muttered, You're a rank one. You can't always be without a position. Chu Li smiled. I wonder what position your Highness is going to give me? I want to set up a new position in the imperial residence. Prince An said, the internal and external affairs of the general residence. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. the chief of the internal residence and the chief of the external residence. They each have their own duties. What's the use of the head chief? The chief of the two residences has too much power. Princeton shook his head. In recent years, I realized that they are not very obedient. I can't spare any energy to keep an eye on them. This head chief is in charge of the chief of the two residences. Chu said, "Don't tell me I'm the first head chief?" Princeton said faintly, "As a rank 1, you're the most suitable for this position. Moreover, the matters of the two residences are too trivial. You'll always be watching over the princess. You won't be able to be distracted. This position is the best." Chu smiled and nodded. "Since it's your good intention, Your Highness, I'll do as you say." Princeton said, "As the head chief, you'll be directly responsible to me. If the chief of the two residences has any problems, you can report directly to me. I'll personally handle it." Chu smiled and nodded. In the end, this head chief had no power at all. Even if he discovered that there was a problem with the chief of the two residences, he would have to report it to him. He had no right to ask whether or not they would handle it. It sounded nice, but it was just an empty position. However, to be able to speak so much to him calmly, this Princeton was really shrewd. Princeton stood up and said, "It's not peaceful these days. I'll have to trouble you here with the princess." "Your Highness, you're too kind." Chu closed fist saluted. "This is my duty." Princeton waved his hand and left. Xue Ling came out of the house. Her face was tense. She scoffed, "Head chief." Chapter 359. Chu smiled. "There's no rush." Xue Ling furrowed her brows. "Master, His Royal Highness is too much of a bully. This position is only in name but not in reality. Now everyone understands His Royal Highness' intention, I'm afraid." She shook her head as she spoke. She understood the mentality of the servants very well. They flattered the popular and trampled on the weak, afraid to fall behind. Once they realized that His Royal Highness did not value Master Xue, but was afraid of her, they would not be so intimate. They would probably avoid her and some would even do some disgusting things. Chu said, "Although this head chief doesn't have any real power, it's high enough. I can't control others and others can't control me. This is enough. I'm afraid that the higher-ups will get me another person. That would be troublesome." "This is already troublesome." Xue Ling sighed. Chu said, "There are some who are blind. Let them understand what rank 1 is." "Let me do it," Xue Ling said. Chu shook his head. As the two were talking, Xiao Shi's voice was heard. "I want to go out. Lady Xiao Shi, come out for some fresh air." Chu said. Yang Su quickly said, "Chief, Lady Xiao Shi's body is too weak. Can she really go out?" Chu said, "It's fine. It's good to get some fresh air. It's too boring to stay in the house all day." Xiao Shi scoffed. "At least she has some conscience." Xue Ling brought out a low couch and helped Xiao Shi out with Yang Su. They carefully put her down and laid her down on the couch. The sun was bright and the air was fresh. Xiao Shi lazily laid on the couch. Her graceful figure was covered with a thin blanket. She sighed comfortably and took a deep breath. Her beautiful face showed an intoxicated expression. "The outside is still the best." Chu smiled. "Then come out and get some sun every day." "That's more like it." Xiao Shi glared at him. "Princeton said he got you a head chief? He's very quick-witted." Chu smiled. "He got me a nominal position." He knew that Princeton was forced to do so. A rank 1 scribe was not something that could be casually dealt with. It was also not something that could be easily dismissed by any position. It needed a position that corresponded to the rank. But the power of the interior chief was too great. Princeton would not be willing to give it to him. Thus, he thought of a head chief. Although he could not hide it from the people with discerning eyes, he could still shut everyone's mouths. There was nothing to say. Head chief. Xiao Shi shook her head and scoffed. Only he could think of that. Are you really going to deal with the stewards of the two manors? I don't have that much free time now, Chu Li said. Let's have some peace and quiet first. It's my first time here, so it's better to stay put. You want peace and quiet, but I'm afraid that King An won't let you. Xiao Shi scoffed. He can't wait to kill you right now. Xue Ling said softly, Master is guarding Lady Xiao. His Highness won't be able to send me on any errands, so there's no way to get someone else to do his dirty work. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at her and scoffed. You're underestimating King An too much. Xue stuck out her tongue and did not say anything else. Chu Li sat by the stone table, flipping through a book while Xiao Shi lay on the bed. They squinted their eyes and basked in the sun. The two of them chatted casually while Xue and Yang Su stood at the side and listened. Xiao Shi soon became lethargic. Being exposed to the sun, she felt sleepy. Xue Ling and Yang Su helped her back, and she quickly fell asleep. With Chu Li watching over her, she felt at ease and fell asleep easily. Chu Li sat by the stone table alone, reading a book with great interest. The Imperial Residence's book collection was better than the High Duke's public house. There were many unique and secret books that opened his eyes. Suddenly, footsteps were heard. Ling Qiu in a light green gown entered the courtyard with a maid. When she saw Chu Li, her eyes lit up and she quickly walked towards him. Ling Qiu was 14 or 15 years old. She was beautiful and pure with a well-proportioned body. She would definitely be a beauty in the future, even more beautiful than her mother, Xuaningyu. Chu Li closed fist, saluted and smiled. Is Lady Qiu looking for the princess? She's already asleep. Ling Qiu shook her head and looked at him. I'm not looking for Princess Xiao. I'm looking for you. Chu Li smiled. Looking for me? Ling Qiu sat opposite him, her bright eyes sizing him up. Many people have told me this. A lot of people told me to stay away from you, saying that you're a killer. Chu Li laughed. Then why did Lady Qiu come over? Ling Qiu said, Li Gui said that your martial arts is powerful and that you're the #1 master in the Imperial Residence. I don't deserve that, Chu Li waved his hand. The #1 master in the Imperial Residence. I'm still young, how can I have such a reputation? Li Gui is trying to harm me. Li Gui wouldn't lie to me. Your martial arts must be very powerful. Ling Qiu stared at him. Chu Li smiled. He might have been deceived too. I'm still young, how can I compare to those seniors who have been cultivating for many years? That's not necessarily true. You sound like you're coaxing a child. I'm not young anymore. I understand that martial arts has nothing to do with age. Some people train hard and they're still an acquired master. You only trained for 2 years and you're already a grandmaster. Ling Qiu scoffed. Chu Li said, Commander Zheng's martial arts is very powerful. The most powerful one is His Royal Highness. Li Gui said that your martial arts is better than Commander Zheng's, Ling Qiu said. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Ling Qiu said, Why are you a killer? Chu Li smiled. Maybe I've killed too many people. What kind of people did you kill? Are they evil people? Chu Li said. His Royal Highness was on his way to fetch the bride. He was attacked by 10 grandmasters. I used the masters of the House of High Dukes to kill the 10 grandmasters. That's why everyone thinks that I'm bloodthirsty. Is that so? Ling Qiu smiled. That's not a killer. There were only 10 of them. Chu Li said, Everyone's spreading rumors. They might have exaggerated it. What does Lady Qiu need a master for? For next month's hunting activity. Ling Qiu curled her lips and said, I want to bring an expert to protect me and make myself look mighty. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Is the hunt dangerous? There's no danger in the hunt. It's just that some people are annoying, Ling Qiu scoffed. They just have to find trouble with me. The last few masters I brought were all defeated by them. Chu Li smiled. There's an assassin with the princess. I can't leave. I can't help even if I wanted to. He suddenly realized that it was about fighting for wind. You can let the princess tag along. She'll be able to ride a horse next month, right? Lung Qiu said. I'm afraid not. Then let's take a sedan. The hunt is very lively. People from all the imperial residences will come out. Lung Qiu said. Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. I'm afraid the princess's body can't take it. She won't be able to join in the fun. That's a pity. It's very fun. Ling Qiu's pure face showed a regretful expression. How many hunts like this are there in a year? Chu Li asked. Once a month, Ling Qiu said. There's no hurry. There's still a long way to go. Chu Li smiled. Ling Qiu tilted her head. Chief Chu, how did you cultivate such powerful martial arts? Chu Li was about to speak when he suddenly turned his head to look at the top of the wall. A tall and fat figure glided over. It flew over the top of the wall and rushed over. The tall and fat figure was as light as a feather. It gave off a strange impact and was unforgettable. Chu Li stood in front of Ling Qiu and unsheathed his sword. The tall and fat man was dressed in a gray outfit. He covered his face with a black cloth, revealing only a pair of large eyes that were like copper bells. They were cold as they glared at Chu Li. Chapter 360. Chu Li dodged to the side and took a step back. He scoffed, Who are you? The person who will take your life. The tall and fat man raised his knife and waved it twice as if to demonstrate his power. He laughed sinisterly. Young man, die. Chu Li frowned as he felt the man's killing intent. Ling Qiu shrank behind the stone table and looked at Chu Li worriedly. She shouted, Hey, fatty, are you an assassin? Of course I'm an assassin. The tall and fat man scoffed. I heard that Chu Li is powerful. I want to see. Chu Li said, You're not an assassin, are you? I am an assassin. Watch my blade. The tall and fat man laughed and swung his knife. The long knife turned into streaks of silver light that slashed at Chu Li. Each strike was aimed at Chu Li's vital points. Chu Li gently dodged to the side and finally retreated to the stone table. He said, Stop. Die. The tall and fat man roared and swung his knife down. Chi. Chu Li dodged to the side and the long knife fell on the stone table. The stone table was split in half like tofu. Ling Qiu, who was hiding behind the stone table, screamed in shock. Chu Li scoffed. If that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. He flashed behind the tall and fat man and threw a flying knife. Woo! The flying knife whistled strangely. The tall and fat man twisted his body strangely. His speed was surprisingly fast, but the long knife was even faster. Ding! The flying knife was knocked away. The tall and fat man laughed. You have such a great reputation and this is all you've got? What flying knife, it's just tickling. Chu Li frowned. He did not expect the tall and fat man to be so fast. He actually managed to hit his flying knife. It seemed like he came prepared. Chi. He threw a flying knife from both hands at an even faster speed. The tall and fat man swung his knife again. The knife seemed slow and could be seen clearly, but it accurately hit the two flying knives. Ding ding! Two crisp sounds were heard as the flying knives were deflected. 3 exquisite flying daggers landed in front of Ling Qiu. She bent down to pick them up. She looked at them curiously. Under the sunlight, the flying dagger shone with a cold light. There were faint patterns on it, and it was obvious that it was a weapon. If he was really shot, it would definitely be a bloody hole. Chu Li scoffed. Great blade technique. Hee, it's nothing great. It's just fast. The tall and fat man chuckled and said proudly, Chu Li, what other abilities do you have? Show them, or I'll kill you with one slash. That won't be satisfying. Chu Li calmly said, You're not an assassin. You're here specifically to deal with me, right? Hee, what do you mean? The tall and fat man shook his head and laughed. If I want to assassinate the little beauty inside, I'll have to deal with you first. Don't worry, I'll make you a pair of lovebirds that share the same fate. Chu Li narrowed his eyes and asked, "Who sent you here?" "You don't need to know that." The tall and fat man waved his hand. He took a step forward and stood in front of Chu Li, wielding his blade at lightning speed. "Take this." Chu Li dodged to the side. "Looks like someone I know. Die." The tall and fat man scoffed and swung his blade at lightning speed. Chu Li's body technique was even faster, always able to dodge. The tall and fat man was so angry that he screamed. The long blade became faster and faster. In the end, the blade could no longer be seen, only a faint light that enveloped Chu Li. Chu Li suddenly unsheathed his sword. Ding! The long blade collided with the modesty sword. The clear sound made Ling Qiu's heart tremble. She quickly covered her ears. Chu Li's modesty sword turned into a dark light that was faster than the long blade. Ding 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 ding. The blade and the sword clashed continuously. Chu Li realized that this man's strength was extremely strong, not inferior to his own. It seemed that he was born with divine strength, and his inner energy was shockingly thick. This was a gifted person, enough to make ordinary people envious and jealous. Eh! The tall and fat man roared in anger. The light of his blade exploded and shook off the modesty sword. It went straight for Chu Li's chest. Chu Li flashed behind him, and with a flash of the sword, he had already stabbed his back. Ding! The long blade swung back and hit the long sword. Chu Li frowned. His sword had already stabbed the tall and fat man's body, but it was first blocked by an invisible inner energy, and then by the man's body. Only then did he get hit by the long blade. He deduced that this tall and fat man was also a torso cultivator, and he had a profound torso cultivation technique. "Your skin is really thick," Chu Li scoffed. The tall and fat man laughed proudly. "Even if I stand here and let you stab me, you won't be able to pierce me. So don't waste your energy, let me kill you." Chu Li said, "What torso cultivation technique is this? Do you think I'm stupid enough to tell you?" The tall and fat man sneered. "Watch my blade." He was embarrassed into anger. At that time, he boasted that he must kill Chu Li with his blade. He did not expect this brat to be so slippery. He relied on his fast blade and his invulnerability, which was not inferior to the Tempest Temple's sentient menace, but he still could not take down this brat. Chu Li muttered to himself, "Internal armor technique." He had never heard of this torso cultivation technique. Looking at this tall and fat man's cultivation level, it was really rare that he could withstand a blow from a grandmaster. Although Chu Li's sentient menace was profound, he had never been able to cultivate it to a higher level. In comparison, it was not as good as his internal armor technique. The tall and fat man slashed again and again, each slash faster than the last. Chu Li held his sword and moved, always able to avoid the long blade. Ling Qiu's eyes widened as she watched Chu Li's white robe fluttering in the wind. "Eat another one of my blades," the tall and fat man roared. The long blade suddenly lit up, as if the sun's rays had gathered on the blade. The blade could not be seen clearly, only a dazzling white light. Chi! The blade slashed across, and the sound of ripping cloth was heard, as if the air was being cut apart. The tall and fat man smiled in satisfaction. With this blade, no matter how powerful the master was, he would be killed, hence the name God-vanquishing blade. The smile on his face suddenly froze, and he looked down at his chest. Chu Li slowly pulled out the modesty sword and shook his head. It would have been better if this Zhu Tianshou did not use this blade. After this blade was used, his body was empty for a moment, giving him a chance. "Stay your hand!" Prince An's shout came from afar. Chu Li did not seem to hear him. The modesty sword slashed again, and the tall and fat man Zhu Tianshou's head flew up. "Stop!" Prince An's exasperated voice was in front of him. "Ah!" Ling Qiu screamed and immediately fainted, falling under the stone table. Chu Li turned his head to look at Prince An, who was rushing over, and closed fist saluted. Your Highness, don't worry, the assassin has been eliminated. You. Prince An's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at him. His gloomy face was filled with murderous intent. He clenched his fists so tightly that the veins were bulging, as if he was about to make a move. Zheng Lide and Meng Ji also rushed over. Chu Li looked at Prince An in shock. Your Royal Highness, did I kill the wrong person? Prince An clenched his teeth and sneered. Good. Chu Li, good move. Chapter 361. Chu Li maintained his surprised expression. Your Royal Highness, I don't understand what you're saying. What trick? With the omniscient mirror, he had long noticed that King An had been spying from afar. He turned his head to look at Zheng Lide and Meng Ji, frowning as he said, Commander Zheng, Deputy Commander Meng, I think the two of you should just go back and retire. You've allowed such an assassin to come here openly again, and after fighting for so long, no one actually came to check. Zheng Lide and Meng Ji's expressions were unpleasant. They only lowered their heads and said nothing. Chu Li scoffed. I'm curious. Is the lady so unimportant? You know that there are martial artists who want to assassinate her, but you don't send more martial artists to guard her. Instead, you open the door and put all the burden on me? Could it be that you want to take this opportunity to kill us? Zheng Lide closed fist saluted and sighed, Head Chief. I am useless and really have no manpower to send. His Highness, Princess Song, and Princess Shui all need manpower. Princess Consort has Head Chief on her side. Head Chief's martial arts are outstanding, so we can be assured. Chu Li laughed coldly. Relax? If something really goes wrong, who can bear the responsibility? He turned his head and cupped his fists, saying, Your Highness, this one has an idea. Is Miss Chiu all right? Prince An was helping Ling Chiu up and felt her pulse. She had only fainted from the shock, it was nothing serious. She would be fine after taking some calming medicine. He fainted from fright. It's no big deal. What's the plan? He glared at Chu Li coldly. He wanted nothing more than to pull out his sword and chop Chu Li into minced meat, but he held himself back. His gloomy expression returned to normal. Tell me about it. I'm sure the head chief's idea is brilliant. Chu Li said, Since we're short on manpower, why don't we ask the Imperial House protectors for help? King An's expression changed slightly. He shook his head. The Imperial House doesn't have enough manpower either. It's best if we don't disturb my mother. Since Su Ning was not by his side, Chu Li could read his mind. King An would never hire the protectors from the Imperial House. Firstly, he did not want the Emperor to think that he was not capable enough. Secondly, he did not want the protectors from the Imperial House to enter the residence. He did not want the Emperor to find out what he had done and expose his ambition. Chu Li replied, How can the Imperial House protectors lack manpower? Since that's the case, there's only one other option. Speak, King An said faintly. Chu Li said, Move the three princesses together. He asked Princess Song and Princess Shui to move over. In this way, the guards of the prince's mansion would not be scattered and there would be more martial arts masters coming over. Of course not. King An furrowed his brows as he looked at him. This suggestion seemed to be good at first glance, but he couldn't delve too deeply into it. The Precious Light Court and Xuanji Court were very far away from each other because they didn't want them to be together. Yet, he suggested that the three of them should be together. He was thinking that the prince's mansion was not chaotic enough and had sinister intentions. Putting the three women together, it was not hard to guess that there would be chaos and the entire prince's mansion would not have peace. At that time, he would become a laughingstock, and he would become the laughingstock of the divine capital. His reputation would be ruined in an instant, and his great plan would be ruined. If he became the emperor, his family would not be at peace. How could the harem be peaceful? How could the world be peaceful? Jing lied hurriedly said, Your Highness, this is a good idea. Meng Ji nodded hurriedly, Yes, this will solve the problem of manpower. They had thought of this idea a long time ago, but they did not dare to mention it. His Royal Highness was so smart, he must have thought of it too, but he did not mention it. That meant he did not like it. If they mentioned it, they would be hated by His Royal Highness. Under such circumstances, if they made His Royal Highness unhappy, they would be tired of living. Chu Li's words made them excited. Finally, someone suggested it. Divide the manpower into two groups. One group from King An's side, and one group from the three princesses' side. Even if more martial arts masters came in, they would be able to handle it without any mistakes. No matter what, as long as they could prevent the assassins from succeeding. Then as the commander, he would not be responsible. The consecutive assassinations had left them badly battered, and they could not raise their heads in the prince's mansion. None of the princesses had a good expression on their faces, and even the servants were somewhat rude. They had enough of being looked down upon. Chu Li smiled as he looked at King An. Your Highness, if this goes on, our prince's mansion will really become a joke. Let's put the rest aside for now, and solve the problem of the assassins. Endless assassins, how do we solve it? Kill. Chu Li said in a deep voice, As long as we gather our manpower, they will not be defeated one by one. The assassins will not be able to return. If one comes, we will kill one. If two come, we will kill two. Just like this guy. He pointed at Zhu Tianshou, who was on the ground, and scoffed, If we don't kill him, we won't be able to establish our prestige. Grandmasters are the foundation of every faction. If a few of them die, I don't believe that the other martial arts factions will dare to come and die. King An coldly stared at Chu Li. He suspected that Chu Li had already seen through Zhu Tianshou's identity, and even after he shouted, he still wanted to kill him, and completely cut off Zhu Tianshou's path of survival. Chu Li was trying to show off his prestige. Zhu Tianshou had a special skill. He was fast, strong, and had parallel martial arts, which was perfect to restrain Chu Li. There was a high chance that he could kill Chu Li. He paid a huge price to recruit him. He originally planned to let Zhu Tianshou kill Chu Li in the name of an assassin. If he really could not defeat Chu Li, he would also appear on the spot to stop Chu Li from killing him. He said that he wanted to test Zhu Tianshou's martial arts. He never thought that the situation would change so quickly. Zhu Tianshou originally had the upper hand, but in the blink of an eye, he had already been stabbed. Just as he opened his mouth, Chu Li's second sword came. There was no saving him. Although Chu Li did not get anything out of him, with his intelligence, he might be able to find out that something was wrong. He would then kill Zhu Tianshou to teach himself a lesson. Thinking about this, King An clenched his teeth. His intention to kill Chu Li was even stronger. The imperial residence was his territory. It was not difficult to kill him. If one plan did not work, there were still other ways. He could not let him live. Jing lied and Meng Ji nodded. Your Royal Highness, the head chief's idea is feasible. Jing lied said in a deep voice, Please move the two princesses to Tianshu courtyard. Nonsense. King An scoffed in a deep voice. Chu Li said, How can the two princesses condescend to Tianshu courtyard? Why not let the two princesses stay in the courtyard beside mine? They can take care of each other. That works too, Jing lied said hurriedly. King An looked at Chu Li calmly. You mean, let Princess Shui and Princess Song stay on your west side? Chu Li smiled. Of course I can't let the two princesses stay on my west side. I will naturally stay on the two princesses' west side. Although this is a little overstepping, for the safety of the princesses, this is the only way. King An said lightly, If the three princesses start arguing, can you stop it? That depends on your ability, Your Royal Highness, Chu Li smiled. Your Royal Highness. Jing lied and Meng Ji bowed and closed fist saluted. King An glanced at the three of them. He rubbed the area between his eyebrows. Princess Song was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. Princess Shui was tough and shrewd. None of them were easy to convince. It would take a lot of persuasion. He really did not want to use his energy to deal with women. This Chu Li. How about this, King An said lightly, since the idea was Chu Li's, then let Chu Li do it. The matter of convincing the two princesses will be left to you, Chu Li. Chu Li hurriedly said, Your Royal Highness, I have to stay by Lady Zhao's side. I really have no time to spare. They will still come to visit concubine Xiao. You just need to take the opportunity to convince them. That's all. He turned around and carried Ling Qiu away. Zheng Lide and Meng Ji were not in a hurry to follow. Someone had already come over to clean the courtyard and get rid of the smell of blood. The two of them closed-fist saluted and thanked Chu Li. Within the imperial residence, Chu Li was the only one who dared to suggest this. He was rank 1. He had enough confidence to go against the Royal Highness. But the two of them could not. If the Royal Highness had any bad intentions, he could dismiss them or even kill them. Chu Li said, Commanders, the one I killed just now, was he a martial arts master that the Royal Highness gathered? About that. The two of them looked hesitant. They shook their heads helplessly and smiled bitterly. Chu Li nodded, I understand. I won't send you off then. Chapter 362. Ah! Ling Qiu screamed and sat up straight. Xuaningyu, who was guarding by her bedside, was startled. She saw Ling Qiu's pale face and was drenched in cold sweat. She quickly took out a silk handkerchief from her sleeve and wiped her forehead. Don't be afraid, mother is here. Ling Qiu stared blankly at the window. Xuaningyu quickly patted her innocent little face. Qiu Qiu Ling Qiu snapped back to reality and looked at Xuaningyu, mother. Qiu mother is here. Xuaningyu quickly patted her back. Are you scared? Mom, it's too scary. Ling Qiu fiercely grabbed Xuaningyu's hand and held it tightly. She trembled slightly. It's too scary. Qiu you went to Princess Xiao's side, didn't you? Xuaningyu said snappily. Didn't I tell you not to go there? Mother, an assassin came to the Tianshu courtyard today. His martial arts skills are very high. Ling Qiu said. In the end, he was killed by Shaoli. It's really scary. It's just killing an assassin, what's there to be afraid of? Xuaningyu said snappily. It's not like I've never seen dead people before. Ling Qiu shook her head and said, Chu Li chopped off the assassin's head with one slash. This is really... As she said this, her face turned pale. Xuaningyu frowned and pondered. Mother? Ling Qiu saw that her mother was in a daze instead of comforting her. She shook her mother's arm in dissatisfaction. Mother! Xuaningyu came back to her senses. She shook her head and said, You little girl, you're really bold. That killer, stay far away from him, don't provoke him. He's quite kind, but he's scary when he kills people. Ling Qiu scoffed in dissatisfaction. Seeing that Xuaningyu was deep in thought again, he shouted in dissatisfaction, Mother, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about that assassin. Xuaningyu said, Don't you think that assassin is a little strange? Monster? Ling Qiu tilted her head and thought about it. It's a little strange. He's tall and fat, but he's so agile and fast. If it weren't for Chu Li's powerful martial arts, he would have killed him. Xuaningyu's sweet face was in deep thought. In the past, whenever Chu Li encountered an assassin, he would just kill him. Is there such a brutal killing technique? Cold Autumn shook his head. Xuaningyu said, There's something wrong with this person's identity. Forget it, there's no point in thinking about this. I have to go thank Chu Li. I saved you again. Ling Qiu said, I'm not going. You. Xuaningyu shook her head and said, You've been spoiled since you were young. Mother, I want Chu Li to be my protector during the hunting ceremony, Ling Qiu said. He wants to protect Princess Xiao. Xuaningyu said. How could he agree to it? Just give up and drink this medicine. I'll be fine after a nap. She took the bowl of medicine from the maid and coaxed Ling Qiu to drink it. When Ling Qiu slowly fell asleep, she left the precious light courtyard and came to the Tianshu courtyard. Xuaningyu came to Tianshu courtyard and visited Xiaoshi. Then, she came out to talk to Chuli. She first thanked Chuli for saving her life and for protecting Ling Qiu. Although he had given her quite a fright, he had saved her life again. Chuli smiled and shook his head. He brought up the idea of letting them move in for a while. Head Chief, this is definitely not what His Royal Highness said. Xuaningyu smiled sweetly and pursed her lips. His Royal Highness is most afraid of us getting together. Whose idea was it? Chuli smiled. It was me. Xuaningyu stopped smiling. If it was someone else, I wouldn't care. But since it's you, Head Chief, I have to consider it. What condition does the princess have? Chuli asked. Xuaningyu looked sweet and charming. She was straightforward and bold, but she was an extremely smart person. I hope you can accompany Qiu heir to the hunting ceremony next month, Xuaningyu said. Chuli sighed. Princess, why should we care about the children's play? To you, it's a child's play, but to me, it's not. Xuaningyu shook her head and smiled. The adults always think that these small matters are not worth mentioning. They don't know that to Qiu heir, it's more important than anything else. I've been through it, I know how it feels. Chuli thought about it and nodded. All right, I agree. Xuaningyu smiled. Only the head chief would dare to bring up this idea. But I didn't dare to say it out of fear of offending Wang Ye. I'm very happy that you're thinking of the Wang Fu. Chuli shook his head. My rank is too high. I'm an eyesore to His Royal Highness, but His Royal Highness isn't happy about it. Xuaningyu waved her hand and chuckled. His Royal Highness has always thought highly of himself. Now that a first-grade martial artist has popped up all of a sudden, he's definitely not used to being able to speak to him on equal footing. He'll get used to it slowly. Head Chief, don't be anxious. I hope so. Chuli smiled. Xuaningyu pursed her lips and smiled. Head Chief, you are indeed smarter than others. By staying by Princess Xiao's side, you are actually avoiding her so that Royal Highness can slowly get used to it. You are indeed smart. Chuli shook his head. It's just a stroke of luck. There are so many assassins. If she relied on the protectors of the imperial residence, the lady would have lost her life long ago. The one from yesterday was very powerful. That's true. Xuaningyu's jade face darkened and scoffed. I said to get some protectors from my house, but the Royal Highness didn't agree. Chuli said, the reputation of the imperial residence is more important. Men are all the same. Xuaningyu said snappily, is your reputation more important or our lives more important? Chuli quickly nodded. Princess Shui really dared to say such things. How could she say such things to him? Xuaningyu scoffed and said, all right, I will move over tomorrow. Which courtyard? The second one on the west, how about it? The first one is reserved for Princess Song, right? Xuaningyu scoffed. Chuli smiled embarrassedly. Chuli, you keep doing these things that offend people. It is not the way of life. Xuaningyu shook her head and smiled as she left. Chuli sighed. This Princess Shui really could not be underestimated. Her ability to win people's hearts was extremely powerful. Not long after Xuaningyu left, Song Luiying appeared. After Chuli told her about the matter, Song Luiying's slender eyebrows frowned slightly. She remained silent. Chuli said, Princess Song, I don't think she will stay for long. Princess Shui has already agreed to move over to the second room on the west. She agreed? Song Luiying said faintly, that's rare. Chuli smiled and said, the two princesses are reasonable people. They also know the difficulties in the imperial residence. There is indeed a lack of manpower. If they split up, everyone will be in danger. Although the assassin's target is the lady, it is hard to avoid the thought of taking advantage of the situation. All right. Song Luing said. I will move over tomorrow. I heard that you killed another assassin? Yes. Chu Li said, when the three princesses gather together, there will be no need to be afraid of assassins. I hope so. Song Luing said faintly and left gracefully. Chu Li watched her leave and let out a long sigh of relief. If he did not use the omniscient mirror to see through their thoughts and grasp their weaknesses, he would not have been able to convince them so easily. Both of them were extremely intelligent women. Such women were the most difficult to deal with. The next morning, Chu Li had not even woken up to cultivate when he heard the commotion outside. There were endless shouts. Two groups of people were moving things. It seemed like they were competing to be louder. Chu Li knew that the two princesses had started to move, so he went to Xiao Shi's courtyard. The courtyard was bustling. Xiao Shi was lying on the bed. Song Luing and Xuaningyu were beside her talking. Ling Qiu and Ling Qing were huddled together and whispering. Seeing Chu Li enter, Ling Qiu shrunk her neck. Chu Li smiled and nodded at her. Her pure face turned pale and she quickly looked away. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.